The first sequence this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476 Mutton Soup Bun. The King Group also has an extraordinary organization called Knights, but this Knights organization does not participate in the competition for resources and has been looking for something for more than 100 years. Then he talked about the mob organization. From the early years when it was only for the fight against nuclear weapons, the organization's program has quietly changed. The customers in the tavern are all old repeat customers, so they have heard many stories told by the storyteller, so when they hear repeated stories, they will appear to be uninterested and just drink. Only Ren Xiaosu listened attentively from beginning to end. Some diners next to him couldn't help but look at him, because the consumption level of the tavern is not something that everyone can come to. Suddenly there is a rich face in the market town, and everyone will always pay more attention. But they found that Ren Xiaosu sat there listening to stories alone every day, and he didn't plan to have any intersection with them. The gentry in the market town secretly muttered in their hearts that he was just a bureaucratic son who fled here, and he would sooner or later eat up all the money. Ren Xiaosu lived a peaceful life listening to stories every day. His life became unusually peaceful until one day he suddenly received a text message on his worn-out cell phone, barrier number 67, see, reply. This text message was very confusing, and Ren Xiaosu ignored it. Now he used this cell phone as a camera, and it was still in its infancy. Ren Xiaosu used this cell phone to take pictures of beautiful sunsets and the rich mutton soup buns in the tavern. He thought that when he saw Luwin in the future, he could show Luwin the photos and let him know what the legendary mutton soup buns looked like. The soup buns in the tavern were different from those in the roadside stalls in the market town. They were more expensive and had meat. After sitting there and ordering the soup buns, the waiter in the store would give the customers 2 pieces of cakes and let them break them themselves. The smaller the pieces, the better. Some people say that if you don't break the rice cakes yourself, or if you don't break them well enough, the chef in the kitchen will secretly spit into your bowl. One day, Ren Xiaosu came to the tavern and suddenly found that the storyteller was not there. He curiously asked the waiter, "Where's the storyteller?" The waiter smiled and said, "You are a new customer, so you might not know that our old man doesn't come every day. He will take a break occasionally. It depends on his mood." Ren Xiaosu thought to himself that this wouldn't work. He was still waiting to hear a story, so he decisively asked the waiter about the storyteller's residence, and went to knock on the door to call the storyteller to come over and tell a story. The old man was also confused. "Young man, I do storytelling just to avoid working in a factory. Now that you're here, I suddenly feel like I was working in a factory before I went blind." After saying this, Ren Xiaosu felt a little embarrassed, but the old man sighed again. "I heard people say that you come here every day, and I thought you were thinking about my granddaughter, but now it seems that you really want to hear a story. Tell me, which story do you want to hear? Let's not go to the pub today. I may not dare to tell the story you want to hear in front of so many people." The little girl next to him was a little shy and hid in the inner room, while Ren Xiaosu was stunned. He suddenly realized that although the old man was blind, his heart was not blind. This world is really strange. Some people are not blind, but they can't see the truth of things. Ren Xiaosu stopped hiding his feelings after hearing this. He said directly, "Old man, I want to hear the story of Anjing Temple." The storyteller laughed. "That's not something that ordinary people should hear. Do you think I'm ordinary?" "That's right, you're not ordinary, so I'll tell you about it. Anjing Temple was not established for a long time, but it has been particularly mysterious since its inception. Its strength is not self-exaggerated, but over the years, there has indeed been no task that Anjing Temple cannot complete. Only the top assassins in the world have the opportunity to join Anjing Temple. Anjing Temple will not only issue tasks to these assassins, but also protect their safety and provide convenience. Legend has it that Anjing Temple killed the biological father of the eldest son of a small consortium, that is, Uncle Wang. Is this true?" Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. "It's true," the storyteller smiled and nodded. "Then if you complete the task of Anjing Temple, can you ask them to help do something of equal value, such as helping to find someone?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "Yes," the storyteller said with a smile, "so you don't want to kill people, but to find people." "If I want to kill people, I can do it myself, Ren Xiaosu said calmly. At this moment, the huge confidence between his words emerged spontaneously. But the storyteller did not take it to heart, but just sighed. Times have really changed. Ren Xiaosu asked again, do you think this Anjing Temple is a good organization or a bad organization? I don't want to define them deliberately, but I want them to help find people. I have to know whether they are reliable or not. Ren Xiaosu was worried that if he entrusted Anjing Temple to find people, it would threaten the safety of Dao Wangfuya and others. The storyteller thought for a while and said, over the years, Anjing Temple has killed people with clear goals. There have always been reasons for killing people, and many of them are radical members of the war faction of various consortiums. For important figures of the conservative faction, they only accept protection missions to help them eliminate some assassins. However, because of the extremely high cost, Anjing Temple has rarely taken action in person in recent years. Not taking action in person? Then who will take action? Ren Xiaosu is stunned. Some killers waiting to be selected, the storyteller said with a smile. Anjing Temple once distributed a batch of mobile phones a few years ago. It is said that the mobile phones can only send and receive text messages and take photos. Sending and receiving text messages is to issue tasks. After Anjing Temple issues a task, it will wait for a reply to see if anyone is willing to accept it, and mark the danger level. What level of killers can accept what kind of task, and the photo function has only one use, that is, you use the mobile phone to take a photo of the body after the task is completed, and the photo will be automatically sent to Anjing Temple. Ren Xiaosu is completely stunned when he heard this. Mobile phone? Exclamation mark. A mobile phone with only the functions of sending and receiving text messages and taking photos? Receive tasks by text message, and also mark the level? Don't I have one in my hand? But the old man said that after taking a photo, the mobile phone will automatically send the photo to Anjing Temple. Ren Xiaosu recalled the mutton soup steamed bun in his album, and suddenly fell into deep thought. I'm afraid that the people in Anjing Temple never thought that they would receive such a photo. Haha, it's amazing, Ren Xiaosu laughed awkwardly. The old man continued, only after completing a series of tasks can you be promoted from D level to A level, and only then will you be eligible to participate in the official selection of Anjing Temple. Ren Xiaosu suddenly asked in confusion, old man, how do you know these things? Ordinary people would not tell these stories to others, how true are they? The storyteller paused and smiled, how do you think I became blind? I haven't asked for votes this month. If you still have some left, please vote for me. I'll also be asking for the October guaranteed monthly ticket this morning. I wish you all a happy holiday. I will update as usual during this holiday. Chapter 477. Please stop posting mutton soup buns. This time, finding the storyteller's home gave Ren Xiaosu a lot of gains. At least he realized what the old mobile phone he picked up was used for, and he also found some clues about Anjing Temple. Ren Xiaosu returned to his own room, turned on the phone again, and then hesitated for a moment before sending a text message to the other party, accept the task. He hesitated because he didn't know what he would face in the future after sending this text message, and this matter would bring changes to his life again. On the other hand, barrier number 67 is quite far from barrier number 61 where he is currently located, and it will take a long time to complete the task. But this is the best way for him to find Wang Fuya and others now, right? It is really difficult to find someone in the vast sea of people with the power of one person. Maybe he can use the power of Wang Shengzi and tell Wang Shengzi frankly, but Wang Shengzi knows his identity very well, and also knows what Zhang Jinglin's attitude towards Ren Xiaosu is, so it is hard to guarantee that the Wang family will not have other thoughts. And Anjing Temple doesn't know who he is. He hides in the dark, and there is still room for buffering. Just when Ren Xiaosu was letting his thoughts run wild, his old cell phone lit up. It was a text message from the other party. The level of the phone holder has not reached the C-level standard, and you cannot accept the task. Ren Xiaosu was petrified at that moment. It turned out that his thoughts were in vain. The other party did not allow him to accept this task at all. He looked at the phone in his hand in disbelief. Was the previous owner of this phone a pig? The phone has been issued for several years, why is it still D-level? And your Anjing Temple is also interesting. You know that I am D-level, why do you still send me C-level tasks? Before he finished getting angry, the other party sent another text message, please don't send mutton soup steamed buns anymore. Ren Xiaosu. Okay, Ren Xiaosu had to continue to wait patiently. Ren Xiaosu still went to the tavern every day. When the storyteller was there, he would listen to stories. When the storyteller was not there, he would sit there and read books. The small tavern was actually made to feel like a library by Ren Xiaosu. As for where the book came from, after all, he had been to the library of barrier number 88. Of course, there is no reason to return empty-handed after entering a treasure mountain. And now that barrier number 88 has been broken, Ren Xiaosu feels that he has helped preserve a large part of the spiritual wealth of mankind. Isn't it said that if someone in the Central Plains finds the information in the laboratory, they can become rich overnight? This shows that humans still attach great importance to knowledge. Of course, most of the information in the laboratory is technology that is formed or about to be formed. Once a consortium finds it, it can immediately open up a new technology field. Therefore, laboratory information can be sold for money, but the book in Ren Xiaosu's hand may not be sold at the same sky-high price. After Ren Xiaosu's visit, the storyteller met Ren Xiaosu in the tavern again, as if nothing had happened. Everyone kept silent in tacit understanding. On the contrary, the storyteller's granddaughter became familiar with Ren Xiaosu. Sometimes, she would come to tell Ren Xiaosu all the stories she heard outside, and then go to the storyteller to listen. This made the storyteller very angry. He secretly hoped that Ren Xiaosu could get the task as soon as possible and get out of here. As the days passed, fewer and fewer people from the northwest fled to the barrier. Those who should have escaped had all escaped. Some who didn't have time to escape had already been liquidated by Fortress 178. Some refugees gathered together and blocked the gate of Fortress 61 every day, saying that they wanted to put forward their political demands to the Wang's consortium, and said that they were also well-known figures in the past, and the Wang's consortium couldn't treat them like this. It's not that these refugees are stupid, but they really have no choice. Many of these refugees have families with them. Seeing that their families are waiting for food, all the things that should be sold have been sold. So when they are too hungry and can't do heavy work, they can only do this. At first, the Wang's consortium was unwilling to pay attention to them. After all, 90% of these people were former bureaucrats of the Zhuang family, and there was not even one who understood technology. Some people were originally engaged in technology, but after they were in high positions, their academic studies had long been abandoned, so they were of no use to the Wang's consortium. But later, the chief of the Wang group who was in charge of managing the market town felt that it was not a good thing for these people to block the gate every day, so he simply beat them up. Only then did the refugees behave themselves. Some people started to do hard labor, while others continued to think of crooked ways. The refugees in the number 61 market town were happy. Seeing that these people from the barrier were not as well off as they were, everyone had the idea of watching a joke in their hearts. Some refugees even went to tease the families of these bureaucrats. Although they did not dare to do anything, they looked a little unbearable. In the evening, Ren Xiaosu returned to the house after dinner in the tavern. Just as he was reading, someone suddenly knocked on the door. Ren Xiaosu went to open the door. When he opened the door, he held a black knife with one hand behind his back. The nanorbits in his body were also ready to move, ready to form an outer armor at any time. But after opening the door, he saw a beautiful middle-aged woman standing outside. The other party seemed to have washed her face specially, and hastily put on makeup with the cosmetics they brought from the northwest, and changed into a beautiful Cheongsam. Ren Xiaosu asked calmly, "Is there anything?" The woman said softly, "Can I go in and talk?" No, Ren Xiaosu refused. The woman didn't expect Ren Xiaosu to be so stubborn. She was a little anxious. "We all fled from the northwest. I came from the 146th barrier. Since we are from the same hometown, can you let me exchange some food?" These days, Ren Xiaosu is probably the one who lives the most comfortably among the refugees. Of course, in the eyes of other refugees, Ren Xiaosu is just a refugee, and he said so himself. So when other refugees found that Ren Xiaosu lived such a comfortable life, they set their sights on him. Ren Xiaosu raised his eyebrows. "What can I exchange?" "I will exchange myself," the woman said through gritted teeth. As she spoke, she deliberately twisted her body so that Ren Xiaosu could see her legs under the slit of her Cheongsam. It must be said that the woman has maintained a good figure. Ren Xiaosu said calmly, "I advise you to go back and change your clothes quickly, otherwise it will be dangerous after dark." As he said that, Ren Xiaosu closed the door again with a thump. A man's voice came from outside the door. He lowered his voice and asked, "What's the matter? Isn't he tempted?" The woman seemed to feel a little humiliated. She cried and said, "How can you give your wife away like this? Then what's the use of me having you? Are we all waiting to starve to death together?" The man said angrily. Chapter 478 First Come First Win. Ren Xiaosu's life did not change because of the attention of these refugees. If he was hungry, he had to work and find a way by himself. This was the worldview he had accepted since he was a child. No one would help him. Everything depended on himself. Although life in the market town was cruel, as long as you were willing to work, there was always a way to survive. The beautiful woman did not get anything from Ren Xiaosu in the end, but she seemed to be humiliated and angry, and she directly gave herself to a grain and oil shop owner in the market town. The owner had a mouthful of yellow big teeth and did not wash his head or feet. In the past, the woman would not even look at him. But what was surprising was that even if she gave herself to someone else, she would secretly feed food to her original husband who had cursed her, which made Ren Xiaosu a little confused. But there were too many strange things in this world, and Ren Xiaosu had no time to waste time on them. Not only this woman, but many other refugees tried to come to Ren Xiaosu for help, and they all wanted Ren Xiaosu to give them a bite of food for the sake of their fellow villagers. The refugees were also discussing with each other, to see if anyone had been in the same barrier as Ren Xiaosu, and if anyone had seen this young man, so that maybe they knew each other and could go up to him to get close. As a result, the refugees gradually found that there was no one who knew Ren Xiaosu. They probably would never have thought that Ren Xiaosu was not their fellow villager at all, but the extraordinary person who broke through the 146th barrier alone in the middle of the night. Just when the refugees finally stopped pestering Ren Xiaosu finally received a new text message, "Barrier number 62, D-level, accept the reply." Finally, the D-level mission was waiting for him. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt touched, and he immediately replied, "Accept the mission." As soon as these 3 words were sent, the other party sent a new text message, "Target Madui, the manager of the sand and gravel field outside barrier number 62, who had tortured and killed 9 migrant workers, and the reward was 20,000. The message only had such a simple sentence, and 2 photos were attached, one of which was a photo of Madui, and the other was a structural diagram of the factory building. As for how to use these to kill Madui, that was up to the killers themselves. Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that the organization behind the phone graded the killers, probably with the intention of protecting the killers, to prevent the killers with insufficient levels and abilities from blindly sending themselves to death. The tasks that the D-level could accept did not even require entering the barrier, and they were still ordinary factory managers. It was said that the cost of accepting tasks at Anjing Temple was extremely high, but this was for the real members of Anjing Temple to accept the tasks, and Ren Xiaosu and his friends were just insignificant little characters in the storyteller's words, and they had not even seen the threshold of Anjing Temple. Ren Xiaosu immediately set out for barrier number 62. His current location was about 190 kilometers away from the target location. He drove a steam train to an uninhabited place in the wilderness. Counting the distance he needed to walk on the road, it would take about 3 or 4 hours to arrive. At this time, Ren Xiaosu had to be careful when driving the steam train. It was better to walk to places where he might be seen. In the tavern, today's guests were a little strange. The boy who used to sit by the window was gone today. The storyteller's granddaughter asked the waiter in the store curiously, "Has he been here today?" "No," the waiter shook his head and teased, "What's wrong, Xiaolu? Do you miss him?" The girl named Xiaolu rolled her eyes and kicked the waiter on the butt. "Go get me some steamed buns. My grandfather told me to go out and ask for stories." "Okay." The diners in the store were almost used to the young man sitting in the tavern every day. Suddenly, the young man disappeared, which made people feel uncomfortable. Some people wondered if the money in their pockets had been spent. After all, even the gentry in the market town couldn't afford to eat out every day. To say that this gentry is really shabby. Xiaolu stood boredly at the window seat where Ren Xiaosu often sat, half lying on the window, waiting for the waiter to bring her the steamed buns that had just been steamed. In this market town, probably only she and her grandfather knew that Ren Xiaosu was not an ordinary person, and the most extraordinary one. Horizontal ellipsis. Ren Xiaosu walked slowly into the market town of Barrier 62. He smiled and asked someone where he could work near Barrier 62 to earn a living. He had been hungry for several days and wanted to find a factory to work and sell his labor. The people in the market town were not surprised by this. There were many refugees like Ren Xiaosu who wanted to find a factory. Someone told him that if he wanted to work in a brick kiln, he should go to the north. If he wanted to work in a mine, he should go to the west, and if he wanted to work in a sand mine, he should go to the south. The other factories required some skills and they only wanted skilled workers. You would not make money if you went there for a while. Ren Xiaosu nodded and thanked them, then walked to the south. He looked up at the sky. It was just noon, so he did not need to be too anxious. It was better to do assassinations at night. He had also killed factory managers. Wang Kongyang's brother Wang Donggyang died in his hands. The factory manager was easy to kill. Although he had guns, if he only had a pistol, Ren Xiaosu could even ignore him. But this did not mean that Ren Xiaosu would rush over and kill him. He still hoped that he could be safer and stay in the dark. In the early morning, Ren Xiaosu, who had been lying in the grass in the wilderness with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He walked lightly towards the factory, and when he reached the factory wall, he just jumped in with a light jump. It was late at night and no one noticed that an uninvited guest had broken into the factory. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu hid in the shadows and calmly watched the patrolling refugees passing by in front of him, and the patrol did not notice Ren Xiaosu at all. After the patrol left, Ren Xiaosu quietly climbed towards the building, but he was stunned as soon as he climbed to the 4th floor, because he saw through the window that Matsuri in the house had fallen in a pool of blood. What the hell? Question mark. Ren Xiaosu was stunned at the time. He had come all the way here and even spent most of the night lying in the bushes, but the target of the mission had already died prematurely? No, Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that he might have missed some very important information. He recalled the process of accepting the mission. Since the SMS for issuing the mission was sent to a group, it means that many people can receive the SMS and many people can accept the mission. Ren Xiaosu sent a text message. Has anyone completed Madui's mission? Isn't it the mission I accepted? The other party replied, first come, first served. Ren Xiaosu had heard at this time. He actually had to compete with others for the mission? Exclamation mark. Then why did he bother hiding it? Isn't this just asking for trouble? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479 The Killer's Path. Ren Xiaosu angrily returned to the market town of Barrier number 61 and continued to wait for the other party's text message. Xiaolu saw him coming back and asked quietly if the mission was completed. What should Ren Xiaosu say? Did he hide in the bushes and let others snatch the mission? In the next half-month, the mobile phone received a total of 7 missions, but 5 of them were too far away from Ren Xiaosu, and the barrier numbers were far apart. He had no time to go there. The 2 closer missions, one was to kill the gentry in the market town, which was easier and the reward was relatively lower. The other was to kill the manager of the market town, which was about the same difficulty as killing the factory manager, and the reward was also 20,000. However, without exception, every time Ren Xiaosu arrived, he found that the mission had been snatched. This made Ren Xiaosu more and more angry. What about the promise that if he completed 5 missions within 2 months, he would be able to quickly upgrade to C level immediately, and what about the promise that he would quickly upgrade to A level? Originally, Ren Xiaosu thought that the most difficult part of this assassination mission should be how to kill people. Now he realized that the most difficult part was how to grab this mission first. The threshold for D-level tasks is very low, and some refugees and ruthless people can do it, so this means that any random person can compete with him for tasks. Ren Xiaosu thought, maybe after the level is higher, there will be fewer people competing for tasks. After all, the higher the level, the fewer killers there are. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu received a new text message. The target is Zhao Yanbo, who is the director of the prison department of the Zhong family's 146th barrier. During his tenure, he oppressed female prisoners and now fled to the market town outside the 61st barrier. The reward is 20,000. Then, the other party sent a photo of Zhao Yanbo. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. Isn't this the middle-aged man who forced his wife to find him before? Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt a sense of surprise. You know, in the past half-month, Ren Xiaosu has run 3 times in vain, just because he is too far away from those targets, so he is always beaten to it. This time, the task is next to him. If someone robs the task again, Ren Xiaosu will eat upside down in the future. It was already evening, and the refugees in the market town had already hidden in their homes. There were fewer and fewer people on the street. Ren Xiaosu changed his clothes and deliberately put on a baseball cap when he went out. Zhao Yanbo had been living a relatively comfortable life recently. Although it was not as good as when he was in the Zhuang family, at least he was not starving to death. His ex-wife had always been secretly bringing him food. This man had no more aspirations. He hid in the shack every day, and from time to time he would secretly ask his wife for some money to buy some wine. When Ren Xiaosu found Zhao Yanbo, he was hiding in the shack drinking a little wine. However, Ren Xiaosu did not rush to take action this time. Instead, he quietly hid in the shadows not far away and waited silently. 3 hours later, someone suddenly sneaked in from outside the market town. He took out a worn-out mobile phone in an empty place and compared the information in the text message. As soon as the phone lit up, someone behind him said with a smile, "Are you here to carry out the mission?" The killer was startled and turned around to swing his knife. However, before he could turn around and see the other person's appearance, he was knocked unconscious by a knife. Ren Xiaosu squatted down and took the phone from the killer and sneered, "You dare to snatch the mission from me? I wonder how you can snatch it without your phone." He happily took all the money from the killer. Ren Xiaosu threw the other person's phone into the storage space, finally venting his anger for wasting half a month. But he didn't kill anyone, because Ren Xiaosu was not sure whether the killer was a bad guy. At least he was here to kill bad guys. After doing all this, Ren Xiaosu dragged the killer to the side in the shadows, and then continued to wait patiently. As long as no one sent a text message to take a photo of Zhao Yanbo's death, the mission would always be unfinished, and there would always be new killers coming here. At this moment, Zhao Yanbo still didn't know what happened outside because of him. Ren Xiaosu had waited for half a month in vain, and he was always angry. He wanted to vent his anger, but those who had taken the mission had already left the crime scene. He didn't know who to find. Now, the mission is right next to him, and he can wait for the task. And Ren Xiaosu thought that he couldn't let others take his mission all the time. How should he solve this problem? For Ren Xiaosu, his thinking has always been different from others. Others solve problems, while Ren Xiaosu looks at more fundamental things. Isn't it better to solve those who create problems for him? Exclamation mark. Today, he only needs to wait patiently, knock out all the killers with mobile phones, and then take their phones. In this way, won't he be the only killer nearby? Exclamation mark. At that time, he can do whatever he wants to do the mission, whenever he wants. He can even pick and choose, and don't do the missions that are too hard. I also want to be low-key, but my strength doesn't allow it. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu almost laughed out loud with joy. Perfect. That night, Zhao Yanbo's mission was never completed. There were assassins coming to him, but they were all killed by Ren Xiaosu. Although other assassins were also suffering from the difficulty of snatching missions, they never thought of Ren Xiaosu's method. It was really impossible to do it. These assassins were only D level, and they didn't even see a superhuman, which was not enough for Ren Xiaosu to fill his teeth. Their D level can only stay at D level. After all, not everyone can complete 5 missions within 2 months. Ren Xiaosu stayed at D level simply because he couldn't snatch missions. Not everyone is like Ren Xiaosu. He is already a legendary superhuman in the northwest region, but he came here to do these small missions. If other assassins knew about this, they would definitely scold Ren Xiaosu for being shameless. In one night, Ren Xiaosu snatched 5 mobile phones. He estimated that there should be some assassins in the barrier controlled by the entire Wang's consortium, but as long as he continued to seize mobile phones, he would be able to pick any mission one day. At dawn, Ren Xiaosu no longer waited. He went directly to the sleeping Zhao Yanbo and broke his neck. He had no psychological burden in killing the lackeys of the Zhuang family. After Ren Xiaosu took the photo, a text message arrived as promised, "Mission completed. From now on, the time limit for promotion to D level will start to be calculated for 2 months, a total of 60 days, and the mission reward of 20,000 yuan will be deposited into Wang's bank. Bearer account 1,583,850. Password 666,666. The sun rose, and a white smudge suddenly appeared in the sky, followed by the red morning glow. Ren Xiaosu finally exhaled a breath of turbid air. His road to becoming a killer finally began. Please give me a monthly ticket. Please give me a guaranteed monthly ticket. Chapter 480, see the 1,000 paper cranes again. In a residential building somewhere, someone muttered strangely, there seems to be a problem with the D-level mission near barrier number 61. What's the problem? A shrill voice nearby asked, what could go wrong with a D-level mission? In the past, these D-level missions were completed not long after they were released. You see, the average completion time is 4 hours. But the two most recent missions were completed 1 day apart. Huh? Is that true? The person who spoke came over, it really is. One took 21 hours and the other 23 hours. What's going on? Are there no qualified holders near barrier number 61? That's not right. A total of 11 qualified holders responded to accept the tasks for the two missions. This shows that there must have been 11 killers who accepted the missions, but with so many killers accepting the missions, some problems still arose. Could it be that the mission targets are difficult to kill? What missions did you assign? They are all very simple D-level missions, mainly to clean up some of the more sinful bureaucrats of the Zhuang family, and there are no bodyguards. The person who spoke first asked puzzledly, did anything unexpected happen? Then who completed these two missions? It was that iron idiot who gave us mutton soup steamed buns. PFFT, the person next to him laughed. This must be a holder who has just obtained the qualification, and he completed the mission so smoothly in one go. Not really, he took on a few missions before, but they were probably too far away from him, so he didn't get them. I think this holder should be in the market town of barrier number 61. Report this to the boss, the person next to him said while chewing a biscuit, put it in the summary of all recent tasks. Although the D-level holder is not a big deal, the boss still needs to know. Okay. By the way, did those who took the barrier number 61 mission take other missions later? The person next to him seemed to suddenly remember something. Let me take a look. It turned out that the first person who spoke found that all the qualified holders who were going to perform tasks at barrier number 61 had disappeared and no text messages were sent to them. He wondered, did they go to rest? Did they not want to accept tasks for the time being? But among these 11 people, some would accept every task, even if it was far away. No, this must be told to the boss as soon as possible. During this period, Ren Xiaosu did nothing else, just stayed in the tavern and waited for new tasks, and then went fishing. He also thought about going to other barriers to perform tasks, but it was too far away, and he was unfamiliar with the place. It would be better to stay here and get familiar with the organization behind this mobile phone. After only half a month, there were more than 10 mobile phones in his storage space, but what disappointed him was that in half a month, the other party only issued 2 tasks about barrier number 61. During this period, the mobile phone also issued more than 10 tasks for other barriers, but because they were too far away and unfamiliar, Ren Xiaosu did not go. Ren Xiaosu roughly calculated that if 5 tasks were to be completed within 60 days to advance to the sea level, then the task of a single barrier would definitely not be enough. After all, assassinations could not happen frequently in the same barrier. Let's take it one step at a time, Ren Xiaosu thought. At this moment, the mobile phone received another new text message. The target is Zhang Zhenggren, the former director of the taxation department of the 144th barrier of the Zhuang family, who has now fled to the market town outside the 61st barrier. The reward is 20,000 yuan. Ren Xiaosu was delighted. This is another acquaintance. I didn't expect that Anjing Temple seemed to have a hard time with these bureaucrats and frequently issued tasks to them. However, based on the previous tasks, the organization behind the mobile phone would always talk about the bad deeds of the people to be killed, as if to eliminate the guilt of the killers, and the D-level tasks were mainly focused on some factory managers who bullied the market, or some extremely bad market town managers. But Ren Xiaosu was a little confused. Would anyone really buy their lives? He couldn't understand the reason, so he asked the storyteller. The storyteller said, he guessed that the tasks these mobile phone holders got were all issued by Anjing Temple itself. After they used extraordinary people to accept extremely expensive tasks, part of the employer's reward was given to the extraordinary people who completed the task, and the commission collected by Anjing Temple itself was used to maintain the killer system outside the entire Anjing Temple, so as to do the selection tasks and eliminate the targets they wanted to kill. As for their specific purpose, only they themselves know. Ren Xiaosu didn't think too much. He went straight to the shack where Zhang Zhengren was. This was the third mission at barrier number 61. I'm afraid that after this mission, the mobile phones nearby will be collected almost. Before approaching the shack where Zhang Zhengren was, Ren Xiaosu first carefully walked around and deliberately observed the surrounding environment. Although it is easy to deal with a fat official, what if there is something unexpected? As a result, Ren Xiaosu saw a small white paper crane perched on a telephone pole next to Zhang Zhengren's shack. It was already dark. If Ren Xiaosu hadn't seen the strangeness of this thing, he probably wouldn't have noticed it. The direction that the paper crane was facing was Zhang Zhengren's shack, and Zhang Zhengren was sleeping inside. The scene gradually became weird. The paper crane stared at Zhang Zhengren, while Ren Xiaosu stared at the paper crane. Ren Xiaosu was very sure that he hadn't seen any paper cranes in the previous missions. It must be that his recent behavior attracted the attention of the other party, so the other party wanted to see who was causing trouble. However, he was also very sure that the feedback information from the paper crane was definitely not instant, otherwise there would be no need to write a note. Wouldn't it be enough to just say something to the paper crane? Moreover, he had caught a paper crane before, and the paper crane had also seen his appearance. If it could transmit messages instantly, then the other party would probably have started to capture him a long time ago. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu decisively opened the shadow gate and caught the paper crane. The paper crane was caught off guard and wanted to open its wings to cut Ren Xiaosu's fingers. The wings were so sharp that ordinary people would probably cut off their fingers if they pinched them. But this time Ren Xiaosu learned his lesson and threw the paper crane directly into the space. At this time, there were already 2 paper cranes in the storage space, and the first one was torn into a piece of white paper. I heard that collecting 1,000 paper cranes seems to bring good luck to the person you like? Ren Xiaosu was thinking wildly. Ren Xiaosu didn't get a new mobile phone in this mission. Maybe all the mobile phone owners nearby were wiped out. Chapter 481 Boss. After completing the task of assassinating Zhang Zhengren, Ren Xiaosu did not leave his yard for 2 consecutive days. He even planted 5 potato shooters in the yard to prevent someone from attacking him. But what surprised Ren Xiaosu was that after he caught 1,000 paper cranes, it seemed as if nothing had happened. The other party still transferred money to his anonymous account, and other tasks were still being issued in an orderly manner without any changes. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt a little sorry for the 5 gratitude coins. He even wanted to go to the market town to set up a stall to sell potatoes. To be honest, Ren Xiaosu can definitely live well wherever he goes now. He doesn't need to farm much. Planting a few potato shooters in his yard can prevent thieves, and he can sell potatoes every day, so he doesn't have to worry about food and drink. It is also because of the existence of potato shooters that he can sleep peacefully every day. Although potato shooters are weak, extraordinary people can be beaten to a grin if they are not careful, not to mention ordinary people, at least they will have a fracture. Ren Xiaosu unpacked the second paper crane in the yard, but there was nothing written inside, which made him a little disappointed. This extraordinary person who controlled the paper cranes probably didn't care about losing 1 or 2. While unpacking, he also paid attention to how the thing was stacked. After all, he wanted to see if the paper crane would jump up and down again after being stacked again. When he thought he understood it, he encountered a common problem faced by handicraft practitioners. Okay, I understand. Brain, no, you don't. Ren Xiaosu ran to the tavern, and the storyteller was sitting calmly on the chair, telling the diners about Qing Zhen's encirclement and suppression of the experimental subjects. He didn't know where the news came from, saying that Qing had driven the experimental subjects out of the barrier in the south. The residents of the original East barrier said that Qing Zhen was a good person, and seemed to have forgotten that Qing Zhen was the biggest winner in this Southwest war. However, the experimental subjects still had hidden dangers, because after they hid in the mountains, no one knew where they moved to. Xiaolu was sitting in the place where Ren Xiaosu usually sat. When she saw Ren Xiaosu, she waved happily. Why haven't you come for 2 days? I was sleeping in at home, Ren Xiaosu explained with a smile. Oh, Xiaolu didn't ask any more questions. There was a new red string tied on the braid behind her head, Grandpa will tell you a new story I just heard today. There are also many refugees in the southwest, but these refugees are much more miserable than the refugees of the Zhuang clan. Their escape route is not easy to travel. Many people died in the mouths of wild beasts in the mountains. It is said that some people also encountered experimental subjects, and only a very few survived. Hearing the long-lost name of the experimental subject, Ren Xiaosu remembered the threat that the other party brought to him in Jingshan. He felt that Qingzhen did nothing wrong in this matter. No matter how the war goes, the first thing to do is to deal with this unreasonable alien creature. At this time, Ren Xiaosu asked, "Xiaolu, can you fold 1,000 paper cranes?" Xiaolu's little face blushed. How can you take the initiative to ask a girl for 1,000 paper cranes? Shameless. After that, Xiaolu swung her braids and ran to the backyard of the tavern. Ren Xiaosu. The storyteller next to him was furious when he heard their conversation. Why was he flirting with his granddaughter in front of him? Exclamation mark. Ren Xiaosu was helpless for a long time. To be honest, he really wanted to learn how to fold paper cranes. Isn't it said that little girls can do it? Thinking about it this way, it seems that this extraordinary person who controls paper cranes is quite girly. However, Ren Xiaosu felt that he had to go out and hide for a while. He had confiscated so many mobile phones. Even if the other party was stupid, he would guess that there might be something wrong with the D-level killer at barrier number 61. And he had captured 2 paper cranes in a row. He had to hide. Otherwise, if someone came to his door and besieged him, where could he go to complain? Ren Xiaosu said goodbye to the storyteller. When the old man heard that he was leaving, he was quite happy. But Ren Xiaosu said in the next sentence that he would come back after a while, and the old man immediately stopped laughing. After all, barrier number 61 is the first barrier connecting the northwest to the central plains. Ren Xiaosu went home and changed into clothes that he had never worn before, and walked straight out of the town with his head down. Just as he was about to leave the town, he suddenly saw a girl wearing a cap and neat combat uniform walking towards him. Ren Xiaosu subconsciously wanted to call Yang Xiaojin's name, and was very excited. But he immediately found something wrong. The other party was not a girl, but a woman. From her figure to her appearance, the other party was a mature woman who was 7 or 8 years older than Yang Xiaojin, about 27 or 28 years old. Moreover, Yang Xiaojin usually wore sportswear and rarely wore combat uniforms in the army. The cap that Yang Xiaojin usually wore was not bright in color, but not dull, while the cap that this woman wore was simply black. What puzzled Ren Xiaosu was that he felt a strange sense of familiarity from the other party, perhaps because some of the temperament of the other party overlapped with Yang Xiaojin. But after careful observation, he still found something different. The temperament of this woman was much more rational and cold than Yang Xiaojin. It seemed like the vicissitudes of life after seeing the ugly appearance of the world. Ren Xiaosu lowered his head and brushed past the other person, quickly leaving the market town of barrier number 61. He always felt that if he didn't leave, he might be targeted. When Ren Xiaosu left, the woman looked back at Ren Xiaosu's back in confusion, but soon turned around and continued to move forward. She came to the outside of the shack where Zhang Zhengren died. At this time, the body in the shack had been pulled out and buried by the manager. The woman looked up at the telephone pole where the 1,000 paper cranes had originally stayed, frowned, and didn't know what she was thinking. She suddenly lowered her head and took out a mobile phone that was the same as Ren Xiaosu's, and sent a text message. From now on, all task information of 1,583,850 will be transferred directly to me. Okay, boss. And this 1,583,850 is exactly the number of Ren Xiaosu's anonymous account. The woman walked towards the tavern that Ren Xiaosu often went to. I don't know if it was coincidence or intentional. The seat she sat happened to be next to the window where Ren Xiaosu often sat. She had just walked in when the storyteller sitting on a chair in the middle of the tavern suddenly smiled and said, "If you want to hear what happened next, please wait for the next chapter." After that, the storyteller actually called the deer, "Let's go home. We are tired today." The woman in the black cap also got up and left. She came to the door of the storyteller's house as if she was familiar with the place. The storyteller smiled at the deer and said, "Good girl, go buy a bottle of soy sauce. There is no soy sauce at home." The deer didn't say anything, turned around and went out. The woman looked at the storyteller and asked, "Have any strange people appeared in the town recently?" The storyteller smiled and shook his head. No. There are only 2 chapters today. A book club group with full subscription has been opened. Friends who like to chat can join. You don't have to join this group. Everyone can join as you like. Verify the group number 720,734,741. Chapter 482A Level Mission. Outside barrier number 63, which is more than 300 kilometers away from barrier number 61, a middle-aged man and a young man are riding a motorcycle towards the barrier. The 2 are dusty and seem to have been sleeping in the wilderness for several days. However, even so, the middle-aged man's eyes are still bright and he looks very tough. From barrier number 61 to the east, it is difficult to see the lowest color between the mountains. The mountains are covered with green, and rivers pass by from time to time. The scenery of the mountains is refreshing. It is said that before the disaster, this place was a huge bird sanctuary with an excellent ecological environment. It's just that birds needed human protection at that time, but now what humans need to do when they see birds is to protect themselves. Birds rarely attack humans actively, but they hold grudges. Once someone took bird eggs in the wilderness and ate them. He was chased by a flock of birds for hundreds of kilometers, with wounds all over his body and a thick layer of bird droppings. The bird shit was all over his body, and he looked like a sculpture. They parked a motorcycle in the mountains and covered it with a green tarpaulin. It would be too conspicuous to ride a motorcycle for the rest of the journey, so they had to walk. The middle-aged man looked at the scenery in the mountains and suddenly sighed. I see how charming the Green Mountains are, and I guess the Green Mountains see me like this. The young man next to him opened his mouth, wanting to ask if the master had used the poem in the wrong place, but he didn't dare to speak in the end. But the middle-aged man continued, Disciple, do you know why I bought a new mobile phone this time, but gave it to you instead of your junior brother? You should know that this mobile phone is the real treasure. Without it, being a killer is meaningless. If one day you can enter Enjing Temple through it, it will be considered a real success. I don't know, the young man shook his head honestly. Because you don't talk nonsense, the middle-aged man praised. Your junior brother likes to argue with me every day. I plan to send him to the construction site to hone his skills. Master, are we here to carry out a mission this time? The young man asked curiously. Of course, the middle-aged man said proudly, the main purpose is to take you to see the world. You have been my disciple for many years, and now you have mastered the skill of killing. Naturally, you have to perform tasks alone. Now the master will take you to do several D-level tasks. You should watch and learn more. Master, the young man said weakly, will the task be too difficult? Difficult? The middle-aged man laughed and wiped his mustache. How can it be difficult for a C-level master like me to do a D-level task? Do you know that some killers can only stay at the D-level throughout their lives and cannot be promoted to the C-level? The young man's eyes lit up when he heard this. When can the master be promoted to B-level? The middle-aged man looked at his apprentice. Soon. Then master, you are so powerful. How powerful are the A-level masters? The young man likes to ask this on weekdays. The middle-aged man suddenly sighed and said, A-level are all extraordinary or extremely scary characters. I have no hope. Once I watched an A-level master killing someone, I didn't even understand how he killed the person. Of course, among A-level, there are only a few extraordinary people. As he was talking, the two had arrived at the market town outside the 63rd barrier. The middle-aged man secretly glanced at his mobile phone. There is a mission, a factory nearby. Let's go quickly, someone is snatching the D-level mission. The two hurried towards the nearby factory. At this time, the young man still felt a little guilty. Master, the target is inside the factory. Shouldn't we wait until night to sneak in? We will be seen like this. What are you afraid of? What did I teach you usually? Don't worry, if I, a C-level master, can't even complete a D-level mission, wouldn't it be a joke? The middle-aged man sneered. His arrogant expression was clearly visible. However, just when they were about to arrive at the factory, they were suddenly stopped by someone. Hey, are you two here to carry out a mission? The middle-aged man turned around suddenly, and the pistol with a silencer in his hand suddenly fired, without any hesitation. As a result, his eyes blurred, and he saw that the masked boy who had just spoken had disappeared, and the bullet did not hit anything. It seems that you are really here to carry out a mission, the boy laughed behind them. You take a rest first, and I have confiscated your mobile phone, so that you don't have to snatch the mission from me in the future. After speaking, There was a sound of wind behind him, and the middle-aged man immediately realized that the boy who came behind them at some point wanted to knock him out. He realized it, but his body couldn't keep up with his consciousness. The other party is a transcendent. This is a speed beyond the limit of normal humans. The middle-aged man suddenly found that his body, which had been trained for many years, could not keep up with the other party's movements at all. The other boy was too fast. However, this middle-aged man is also an old man. The collar on his neck is lined with a thin steel plate. One is to prevent someone from cutting his throat with a dagger, and the other is to prevent someone from hitting the carotid artery. In order not to hurt anyone's life, Ren Xiaosu behind him naturally would not use his full strength, so when he hit him, he found that the middle-aged man did not faint, but was just grinning from the blow. The apprentice next to him had fainted, and the middle-aged man turned and ran. Just when Ren Xiaosu was surprised, the middle-aged man was about to curse, "Is this a D-level mission? Huh? Doesn't Anjing Temple review the distribution of mobile phones? Is it crazy to send D-level mobile phones to extraordinary people? What do you do in Anjing Temple? And you are an extraordinary person doing a D-level mission? Have you any shame? Do you need this little money?" Exclamation mark. However, the other party did not seem to want to kill, otherwise he would not have knocked him unconscious, and he would have just killed him directly. The middle-aged man knew that the other party had just held back. Thinking of this, the middle-aged man did not act pretentiously and shouted decisively, "I have money, I can give you money." But as soon as he finished speaking, his eyes went black and he lost consciousness. Ren Xiaosu squatted beside the two of them and began to search them. To Ren Xiaosu's surprise, he even found 2 mobile phones. This was a good harvest. Ren Xiaosu decisively put the mobile phones into the storage space and continued to wait. When the middle-aged man woke up, there were still 4 or 5 people lying beside them. He quickly patted his apprentice to wake him up, and then searched his body to see what the other party had left for him. The money was still there. The middle-aged man was overjoyed. This extraordinary person didn't want money? But the next moment he was stunned. The 2 mobile phones on his body were gone. The middle-aged man realized at this moment that this extraordinary person was on a mission to seize everyone's mobile phones. It's over. It's all over. He had boasted so much to his apprentice, but he didn't even have the chance to see the mission target. Which damn extraordinary person came to play a prank on him? Question mark. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly saw a text message on his mobile phone. Target is inside barrier number 63, in the residential building number 476, Xiangyang Street, the fire company's early morning team, A level, remuneration 500,000, accepting cooperation of up to 3 people, and each of them will be granted the right to use the safe house once, and can get our protection when being chased. Chapter 483, Watching the Fun Without Fear of Trouble. Ren Xiaosu was stunned when he saw the task of hunting down the Spark Company's Midnight Squad. The organization behind this phone must have a grudge against the Spark Company, otherwise why would they offer such a high price? He had fought against a Midnight Squad before, so Ren Xiaosu probably understood the combat effectiveness of the Midnight Squad. Those people looked like extraordinary people, but they just had their gene sequences modified, and they had stronger bodies than ordinary people. Although they were far superior to ordinary people, they were still incomparable to extraordinary people. After all, the methods of extraordinary people today were still more explosive and more bizarre. Yang Xiaojun once said that the Spark Company had a more powerful combat sequence, but Ren Xiaosu had never seen it, so it was difficult to comment. In this reward, money was still secondary. The main thing was the right to seek shelter from them once, which was the most important. Who hasn't encountered a dangerous situation in their life? Even Ren Xiaosu had encountered it many times. For example, after being injured, no matter who it was, they would need an extremely safe place to recuperate. This was the time when they were most likely to die suddenly, and extraordinary people could be killed by ordinary people. At this time, a secret safe house and a trustworthy shelter became everyone's first choice. Does Anjing Temple have credibility? At least among the killers, it is extremely trustworthy, otherwise everyone would not want to join Anjing Temple. Therefore, Anjing Temple's offer to shelter the person who completes this mission will definitely make many people excited. It is difficult for a killer to end well, which is something all killers know. Ren Xiaosu frowned when he saw the text message. This mission happened to be posted at the 63rd barrier, which is next to him, but the mission is A level, and he can't accept it even if he wants to. He really wants to fight the fire company. After all, Yang Xiaojun seems to have a grudge against fire. But he is only D level, and counting the mission just now, he has completed 2 missions at the 63rd barrier, and should be able to upgrade to C level, but it is still far from A level. This mission seems to have nothing to do with him. No, Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that even if he couldn't accept a mission, the address was now clear, and he could go and see how these A-level masters perform their missions. At that time, I will hide in the dark and watch those killers fight with the Spark Company. The more intense the fight, the better. At this moment, one of the greatest characteristics of human beings is fully reflected in Ren Xiaosu. He likes to watch the excitement and is not afraid of big trouble. Horizontal ellipsis. Just as Ren Xiaosu made the decision to sneak into barrier number 63, someone in a residential building muttered that 1,583,850 has completed another mission. Counting the time, he has completed 5 missions within 60 days. Should we upgrade him to C level? The person next to him said with a toothache. Didn't you notice that since he went to barrier number 63, the D-level missions near barrier number 63 have been delayed for more than 20 hours to complete, and the 6 people who responded to the mission the first time all seem to have disappeared during the second mission? Well, the person next to him said, if you say this has nothing to do with him, I definitely don't believe it. The person who robbed other killers' phones at barrier number 61 before must be him, and Jinxie is not a fool. All these suspicious missions were completed by the qualified holder 1,583,850. Even a fool would know that there is something wrong with this guy. After the incident at barrier number 61, they began to investigate the matter, and even the boss went there in person, but he was unable to catch the other party. Let's ask the boss about this and see how to deal with it. They sent a text message to the boss, and the boss replied, promote him to C level and see what he wants to do. Don't alert the enemy. Don't send him D-level tasks when sending group text messages, and don't let him harm other D-level killers. The 2 people in the residential area asked again, what if he kills other killers? The boss replied, he didn't kill anyone. Anjing Temple has encountered many killers with unique personalities. For example, some killers have some special hobbies, or are extremely unruly, but as long as the mission is completed, Anjing Temple will not care about such things. It's just that the contestant encountered this time was indeed a bit too much. The 2 Anjing Temple members in the residential area are responsible for allocating tasks and resources. This residential area is their safe house. Now the boss's attitude is not very clear, so let's do as the boss says. When Ren Xiaosu received the text message that he had been promoted to C level, he had already quietly sneaked into the number 63 barrier. He wanted to see the excitement. Now, when Ren Xiaosu sneaks into the barrier, he doesn't need to crawl under the car, he can just flip into the barrier directly. The barrier of the Wang's consortium looks more prosperous. At 10 o'clock in the evening, there are still colorful neon lights on the street, illuminating the night of the barrier like daylight. However, the difference between this Wang's barrier and other places is that there is a surveillance camera almost every 100 meters on the street. And it is said that in Wang's barrier, you need to swipe your ID card to stay in a hotel or go to a pub to eat. Everyone in the entire barrier city is like a set of data, under the control of artificial intelligence. Ren Xiaosu has also heard a lot about the Wang's consortium. For example, all the young and middle-aged people here have to serve in the military when they reach the appropriate age. If you evade military service, your whole family will be implicated and expelled from the barrier. In addition, if you encounter a thief on the road, after the artificial intelligence warns, people near the thief are obliged to catch him. If an adult male sees him but pretends not to see him, he will also be punished. If an old man falls on the road, the people next to him must help him. If the old man turns around and blackmails the person who helped him, then the old man will be sentenced. All of this is judged by the all-pervasive artificial intelligence. For example, there are thousands of such regulations in the entire Wang's consortium, and everyone must read them thoroughly during school intake exams. The storyteller said that this is the legalist thought of the Qin state before the disaster, which is based on the rule of law. They do not believe in human nature, but only believe in reason and law. Ren Xiaosu has a hard time describing such a system. It is of course a good thing for everyone to be brave and righteous, but he himself is actually not willing to live in such a barrier. It's not that such a system is bad, it's actually quite good, at least the residents of the barrier live very safely. But Ren Xiaosu is not used to it. He has no intention of judging the pros and cons of the systems of various consortiums, but he feels that he is not free enough, and every move is under the surveillance of others. Ren Xiaosu cannot walk freely in such a barrier, because the legendary artificial intelligence database does not have his appearance. Once he is seen by the surveillance, an alarm will be immediately issued. Moreover, if you cannot perform your mission perfectly and avoid all surveillance in such a fortress, you will definitely be wanted by the entire Wang group, and there will be artificial intelligence to help analyze the killer's hiding place. Ren Xiaosu also wanted to know how those A-level killers killed people in such a fortress. Chapter 484. What are you pretending to be? The missions in the Wang's Consortium's fortress have always been more expensive than the missions in other fortresses, because most killers find it very dangerous to perform missions here, and basically after completing the mission, they can only flee the fortress under the jurisdiction of the Wang's Consortium. If they are seen by the surveillance camera again, they will be immediately hunted down. Ren Xiaosu found that there would be surveillance cameras on the high-rise buildings of this fortress from time to time. It seemed that the Wang's Consortium also thought that there would be extraordinary people like him flying around on the rooftops, so he could only avoid them carefully. But Ren Xiaosu felt that as long as you were not surrounded by cameras all over the floor and there was no blind spot in all directions, he would have a chance to take advantage of it. After the mission of the mobile phone text message, there was also a map of the approximate location of number 476 Shenyang Street, which was simple and easy to understand. In the neon lights, Ren Xiaosu walked lightly in that direction. During the period, he was almost photographed by the camera several times. Fortunately, the speed of the camera's rotation and patrol was relatively slow, so he arrived near the mission target without any danger. Ren Xiaosu found a 12-story building and climbed to the top of the building with his bare hands. After making sure that there was no surveillance on the roof, he carefully hid here. According to the location, this is not the best terrain to observe number 476 Shenyang Street, because there will be some buildings blocking it, and the distance is 900 meters. Ordinary snipers will not choose to shoot at this distance, and the opponent is still an extraordinary early morning team. But Ren Xiaosu didn't want to go to the best observation position, because he could judge where the best position was, and those A-level killers must be able to do it, and maybe someone was already guarding it at this time. Number 476 Shenyang Street is a residential building with 5 floors. Ren Xiaosu couldn't judge which floor the early morning team of the fire company was hiding, so he could only wait in the dark. To be honest, Ren Xiaosu now admires Njingxi a little bit, and he doesn't know how the other party found this hidden early morning team in this vast sea of people. Ren Xiaosu materialized a black sniper rifle and silently used the scope to scan the area around number 476 Shenyang Street. However, what puzzled him was that there were no suspicious people nearby. There was not even a repeated face among the pedestrians who came and went, and no one stopped nearby. It was strange. Could it be that he was the first mobile phone holder to arrive at the scene because he was too close to the target? Ren Xiaosu sat on the roof holding the huge sniper rifle and continued to wait quietly. In this A-level mission-killing game, I am afraid no one would have thought that a strange person would sneak in, not for the mission, but just to watch the fun. Suddenly, 5 people walked out of the residential building, and Ren Xiaosu's face became serious. The temperament of the early morning team of the Spark Company was completely different from that of ordinary residents of the barrier. Ordinary people might not be able to see it, but how could Ren Xiaosu, who often dealt with extraordinary people and elite warriors, not see it? Moreover, the early morning team has always been a group of 5, and this happened to be 5 people again. Ren Xiaosu set up his sniper rifle and began to slow down his breathing. Yang Xiaojun once said that breathing is one of the keys to unlock the body's hidden shackles. If no one from Anjing Temple came to carry out the mission, he would not mind helping Yang Xiaojun deal with some people from the fire company. Anyway, he was free to do nothing. At this moment, for some reason, fireworks suddenly rose to the sky from the west of the barrier. The gorgeous fireworks roared and exploded in the sky, bursting with colorful lights. The loud noise attracted all the residents of the barrier to look to the west. Not far away, on a tall building, a fire suddenly burst out at the moment the fireworks exploded, and a member of the early morning team on Shenyang Road died on the spot. Ren Xiaosu quickly shifted the scope over and found that the building was the best shooting position, with a shooting distance of more than 600 meters. Shenyang Road was in full view from the angle of the building. At this time, A young man was lying on the roof, and he seemed to have started aiming at the next target. Ren Xiaosu could even recognize that the other party was using a Blaster 93 tactical sniper rifle. The biggest feature of this rifle is that the straight pull design can make the burst more stable. Bang! Another shot, 600 meters away, another member of the early morning team who had not yet found a shelter was sniped. Ren Xiaosu thought, it turns out that there are even snipers among the A-level killers. You know, the training funds for snipers are quite expensive, and the sniper who can ensure accuracy in bursts and has such a fast shooting rhythm must not be a mediocre hand. Maybe he was once the ace of an elite unit. However, this Spark company is too easy to deal with, right? Although a sniper is powerful and tricky, it is not possible for a sniper to destroy your team? But before Ren Xiaosu could think more, he suddenly saw in the scope that someone had climbed up the building opposite the sniper with bare hands and attacked him instantly. This man's speed and strength far surpassed the Dawn squad he had fought before. Ren Xiaosu was shocked. The intelligence from Anjing Temple was wrong. There was more than one fire company here. The other side had a backup plan, and a higher combat sequence was ambushing. The Dawn squad that was shot was just a bait. Seeing that the members of the fire company on the opposite building had already killed the sniper, Ren Xiaosu suddenly had an ominous premonition. Did they say that the combat sequence of the fire company was in groups of 5? What about the other combatants? He looked at the members of the fire company on the opposite building through the scope. The other party suddenly turned around and grinned at him, and then made a throat-cutting gesture. In an instant, a person on the roof of the building where Ren Xiaosu was also rushed up from the edge. In the night, the other party was wearing black clothes, as if he had merged with the night. As a result, at this moment, a darker shadow suddenly flashed out from the darkness next to him. The black knife in the shadow's hand slashed out and actually cut a member of the fire company who rushed up in two. From beginning to end, Ren Xiaosu did not look back, but kept breathing steadily. Distance 617 meters, wind speed 15, humidity. At the moment when the opponent made a throat-cutting move, Ren Xiaosu sneered and pulled the trigger. At this distance, the firepower of his anti-material sniper rifle was enough to ignore external factors, unless it was a windy weather. With a bang, the exhaust holes on the side of the gun body stirred up all the dust around Ren Xiaosu, and the members of the Spark company on the opposite side were already hit backwards by the huge inertia of the bullet. Ren Xiaosu was afraid that the opponent was wearing a bulletproof vest, and even used armor-piercing bullets, which had no problem hitting tanks. Seeing that the opponent could not die anymore, Ren Xiaosu put away his gun and muttered, "You are pretending." Ren Xiaosu said while moving quickly in other directions. The gunshot just now was too loud, which would definitely attract a lot of attention. And the senior combat sequence of the Spark company, there are still 3 people hiding in the dark. Thanks to Wulong Tiguanyin for becoming a new ally in this book. We are old friends. The boss is generous. Chapter 485 Break Free from Fate. Originally, Ren Xiaosu entered barrier number 63 purely to see the excitement. After all, he completed the A-level mission without any reward, and the feud between Anjing Temple and Spark Company had obviously been going on for more than a day or two, so he didn't want to get involved in such disputes. But the senior combat sequence member of Spark Company wanted to pretend to be like this and directly sent someone to kill him, which was a bit unbearable. Ren Xiaosu put away his sniper rifle and moved to another position. While leaving, he was observing the direction of Shanyang Road. At this time, he suddenly saw an old man sitting on the roadside, boiling sugar for children to draw. He suddenly put the spoon in his hand into the pot, scooped out a spoonful of brown sugar, and then quickly splashed the spoon on the aluminum plate in front of him to draw. In just a blink of an eye, a lifelike peacock was painted. Then the sugar peacock on the aluminum plate suddenly shook its wings, and suddenly escaped from the cage on the aluminum plate and flew into the sky. The peacock painted with Sirat turned out to be real. The peacock in the sky was amber in color, and it pounced in front of the remaining 3 members of the early morning team in an instant. The old man did not stop his movements, but stretched out his hand to scoop up a spoonful of golden and dazzling syrup, and then drew a dragon on the aluminum plate. Ren Xiaosu was shocked for a long time. It was the first time he saw such a magical supernatural ability, but he could draw everything with his mind, as long as he believed in his heart that it was alive. When he used the scope to observe before, he thought that the other party was just an ordinary craftsman, And many children had bought the sugar paintings of this old man, and there was nothing unusual at that time. But now it showed Ren Xiaosu a more magnificent side of the world of supernatural people. In the field of vision, the Amber-Real Dragon did not attack the early morning team, but guarded the old man tightly. At this time, the old man had already started to draw tiger. However, Ren Xiaosu felt that the old man might be approaching his limit, and his movements of drawing a tiger were particularly difficult. At this moment, 5 people suddenly jumped out of the window of the residential building next to them and surrounded the old man. Ren Xiaosu was shocked. This was also the backup plan of the fire company. In just a moment, Ren Xiaosu realized that the early morning team of the fire company was used as bait to capture the extraordinary people who came to encircle them this time. In the entire Barrier Alliance, everyone knew that the fire company was particularly interested in the extraordinary people. Ren Xiaosu was even more of a person who had actually faced the early morning team. The other party wanted the gene fragments of the extraordinary people. They wanted to create more powerful humans. This was their way of evolution. Therefore, on the surface, this mission seemed to be that Enjing Temple wanted to encircle the fire company, but in fact it was a killing game set by the fire company for the extraordinary people. When in the southwest, although the fire company also existed, Qing Zhen clearly expressed his disgust with the fire company, and even directly fought a hard battle with the fire company and drove the other party out of the southwest. Therefore, the strength of the fire company in the southwest was very weak. Their enemies were the entire army and Qing Zhen, who was very good at fighting. Arriving in the Central Plains, this is the home of the Spark Company. Moreover, the Spark Company warriors who have modified their gene fragments seem to be endless. The other party has a method of stably creating extraordinary people, which is an advantage that no other organization can match. No, only the King Group can compare, but the number of extraordinary people in the King Group does not seem to be large, and they are not too concerned about the competition for resources. On weekdays, they do not offend others unless they offend me, and they do not have any political propositions. Ren Xiaosu had already jumped to a new rooftop at this time. He heard the footsteps behind him shuttling between the rooftops. They were the members of the Spark Company chasing him. The other party was getting closer and closer. The entire number 63 barrier had become chaotic. The residents on the street who were enjoying the nightlife heard the gunshots and quickly screamed and fled the assassination scene. The night was chaotic, and even the colorful neon lights suddenly seemed oppressive and cramped. But at this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly stood still, rematerialized the huge black sniper rifle, and aimed at the members of the Spark Company who surrounded the old man. Because of the rapid movement while escaping, Ren Xiaosu's heartbeat began to speed up. Take a deep breath. When the sniper fired, all the hormones, blood, muscles, and heart in the body had to serve the will, and even the chaotic night sky had to freeze. With a bang, Ren Xiaosu pulled the trigger, and the muzzle burst into a thick smell of fireworks. After passing through the spiral rifling of the muzzle, the bullet began to rotate rapidly, carrying huge kinetic energy. In the rifling, the concave part is called the yin line, and the convex part is called the yang line. In the black sniper barrel, the perfect winding angle and winding distance made the bullet rotate the moment it was fired, and let the bullet break free from the constraints of the outside world with huge kinetic energy, shooting more accurately and farther. As if breaking free from fate. The long bullet passed through the gap between the two buildings and came in front of a member of the Spark Company. The rotating bullet quickly penetrated through the muscle, but the friction between the bullet and the muscle twisted the wound into broken cotton wool. Death. In the scope, a young man in a black suit and white shirt on Shanyang Road was waving his hand to twist off a metal street lamp pole in the air, and then suspend it beside him as a weapon. But before he could rush to the old man's aid, he found that a sniper was helping them kill people. The young man was stunned for a moment and asked in his headset, "Do we have other snipers?" No, only one A-level sniper took the mission, but he died. But the sniper who just shot helped him get revenge, someone in the headset answered. That's strange, where did this sniper come from? The young man looked at the place where the bullet came from, but there was no one in the building. Suddenly, 3 figures flashed across the roof of the building again. The young man said hurriedly in the headset, "I will deal with this Spark Company on Shanyang Road first. The sniper at 7 o'clock is being chased by 3 members of the Dusk team. Is there anyone who can rescue him? It's too late. He is too far away from us." Everyone stopped talking. Because of the distance, They could only pray that the sniper would have better luck and not be caught by the Spark Company. The battle was chaotic. Even Enjing Temple could not fully understand what was happening on the battlefield. There were not many geniuses in the world who were as good at planning as Qing Zhen. Most people could only fight by making do with what they had to deal with. This was true for both Enjing Temple and Spark Company. However, neither of them expected that this sudden sniper would become the key to changing the situation. At this time, Ren Xiaosu fled all the way to the west, frequently jumping between the roofs of various buildings, but the next moment he suddenly stopped running. It was not that he could not run anymore, but that he did not want to run anymore. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486, No More Running. Ren Xiaosu hadn't been chased by anyone for 2 months since he broke out of Barrier 146. The more he thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. He just came to see the fun, but why did the Spark Company start chasing him? Although he just shot and killed another member of the Spark Company, you were the first to do it this time. Although I was holding a sniper rifle on the roof, it was only because I could see more clearly through the scope. I really didn't want to shoot anyone. Whether you believe it or not, I just wanted to see it. So, I just wanted to see it, but you wanted to chase me, so I have to argue with you. In the entire Barrier 63, the Spark Company's higher combat sequence is estimated to have only 10 people in total. As a result, Enjing Temple wanted to attack the Spark Company, but the Spark Company sent half of its people to attack itself. How can this be justified? Ren Xiaosu thought carefully. Can he beat the 3 people from the Spark Company? Yes. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu felt that there was no point in running away. Ren Xiaosu stood still on the rooftop, and the 3 members of the Spark Company were chasing him in a triangle formation. When the 3 saw Ren Xiaosu stop, they were also a little confused. Although they didn't see how Ren Xiaosu killed people just now, the extraordinary person who could kill 2 members of the Twilight team in a row must be a master. The 3 people slowly stopped, and the 2 sides confronted each other on the rooftops of 2 buildings, with a gap of more than 20 meters in the middle. Ren Xiaosu's fighting spirit was boiling, so much so that his fighting will was as shocking as a substance, and the 3 members of the Twilight team were a little afraid to chase him. Now calm down and think about it. Just seeing the other party running away, the 3 people chased after them, and finally caught up with them, so they had time to think about whether they could beat them. The sirens in the distance have already sounded, and the defense forces of the number 63 barrier are constantly surrounding them, trying to catch Enjing Temple and the Spark Company in the barrier. The 3 of them looked at each other and prepared to fight. No matter how powerful the opponent was, he was just one person. They were genetically modified super soldiers. How could 3 people not kill one person? We can't wait any longer. If we don't kill him today, you and I will be judged as defective products when we go back. Kill him. As a result, just as they made a decision, they saw Ren Xiaosu slowly retreat a few steps. The 3 people were puzzled. Is he going to run away again? As soon as the voice fell, they saw Ren Xiaosu on the opposite side actually started to run towards them. The few steps back just now were actually for the convenience of running. Fire. The 3 people pointed silenced guns at Ren Xiaosu and began to shoot rapidly. With their physique, the speed of their arms could completely keep up with the speed of Ren Xiaosu's movement. However, in the blink of an eye when they pulled the trigger, Ren Xiaosu's whole body was instantly wrapped in external armor. In the eyes of the 3 members of the Spark Company, the figure flying across the rooftop on the opposite side gradually enlarged, and then suddenly turned into steel armor that made it impossible to start. This turn of events was too unexpected. The pistol bullets only left a white mark on the outer armor, which did not cause any substantial damage. Wait, it's him. A member of the Spark Company roared. Why is he here? After the Northwest War, any organization that had paid attention to that place knew that there was a young man who could materialize an outer steel armor and destroyed a barrier by himself. Any organization with a little ambition would have to do this kind of homework. Although the Northwest is located in a remote area, it would be too stupid not to know such a big thing. Not only do they have to know, but they also have to buy the information and intelligence of this young man from various secret intelligence organizations. But what was more surprising this time was that the two secret intelligence organizations that knew the most about the Southwest and Northwest in the past said that they had no specific information about this young man. After the 178 fortress entered the 146 barrier, the first thing it did was not to receive all the resources of the barrier, but to search and destroy all the wanted portraits of the young man. At this time, when the people of the Spark Company found that the enemy they were facing was actually the legendary figure, their mood suddenly became gloomy. Someone shouted in the communication channel, "We are encountering." Before he finished speaking, a black shadow pounced on them from behind. The black knife pierced through the chest of the speaker, and blood instantly filled his entire alveoli. As soon as he spoke, blood foam gushed out of his throat. The remaining two people quickly fled to both sides. Their speed was comparable to the best among the extraordinary people, and even exceeded it by a line. In just a moment, their powerful brains analyzed their best escape route. But they were shocked to find that they were covered by the shadow again after just 2 steps. They were fast, but Ren Xiaosu was even faster. Even without using the city destroyer, Ren Xiaosu's physical fitness was almost superior to all the members of the Dusk Squad. Fireworks rose into the sky again in the boiling night sky. The sound of sirens, gunshots, wailing, and shouting, this chaotic sound mixed together, making the number 63 rampart full of the smell of blood and gunpowder. Ren Xiaosu passed by the shadow, and the two figures intercepted the members of the Dusk Squad separately, and their movements were neat like two machines. Since the outer armor was used, none of the members of the Spark Company present could escape. However, the two members of the Twilight team jumped out of the roof, one on the left and one on the right, and tried to escape to other roofs. As a result, Ren Xiaosu and Shadow also jumped out one after another. The strong reaction force before the jump caused the waterproof layer on the roof to shatter. Ren Xiaosu surpassed the members of the Twilight team in the air. He twisted his body and slashed with his backhand. The other party wanted to draw out the knife from his waist to resist, but Ren Xiaosu held his palm in midair, and the knife from his waist could not be drawn out. Then, Ren Xiaosu's hand pierced into his heart like thunder. How can you be so strong? This was the only thought left by the member of the Twilight team before he lost consciousness. Ren Xiaosu kicked him, and the whole person flew to the roof of the opposite building with the force of the kick. Because of the great inertia, he half-crouched on the roof and slid for 5 or 6 meters before stopping. On the other hand, Shadow killed people more decisively. Even Ren Xiaosu had to admit that Shadow's physical fitness was much stronger than his. Ren Xiaosu stood on the rooftop, panting, and took back Shadow. Then he quickly fled out of the barrier. He had experienced too many things tonight. There was no need for him to risk his life here again. As for who would win or lose between Anjing Temple and Fire Company, it had nothing to do with him. Chapter 487, Departure after the work is done, leaving the fame and achievements hidden. Shadow. Ren Xiaosu felt that this ability was the wisest choice he had made since he had copied his skills. After being in this chaotic world for so long, Shadow had made great contributions to him. Without Shadow, Ren Xiaosu would not be able to do many things. Of course, Shadow also had its shortcomings, such as the inability to use a sniper rifle independently, and the inability to calculate complex ballistics and external factors, so the accuracy was always unsatisfactory. When Ren Xiaosu left the fortress, he also passed by the number 63 fortress troops that were besieging them, but he was flying on the roof, and the people below could not see him at all. A transcendent in that unit suddenly looked up at the sky. He always felt as if something had just jumped over his head, but the other party's movement was too fast, as if he had hallucinations. Did you see the abnormality above your head just now? The transcendent asked. No, the soldiers shook their heads. Forget it, let's solve the problem on the road to Shanyang first. If there is resistance, kill without mercy. Set up checkpoints on all the main passages. After Ren Xiaosu escaped from the barrier, he didn't even stop in the market town to wait and see, but continued to run towards the wilderness. If you want to leave, you have to leave decisively, so Ren Xiaosu went straight to barrier number 61 and wait and see. On the way, he also received a C-level mission for barrier number 63, but he planned to give up this mission directly. The condition for C-level to be promoted to B-level is to complete 3 C-level missions within 90 days, and you can be automatically promoted, but Ren Xiaosu thought that barrier number 63 was beaten like that, so he would not go back to do the mission. At this time on the road to Shanyang, The amber golden dragon painted with Sirat grabbed a member of the Dusk Squad, threw him into his mouth, and bit all the bones of the other party into pieces. Only one of the 3 remaining members of the Dawn Squad was left. He was still shooting, trying to smash the golden dragon, but the bullets hit the amber real dragon, and only sugar cubes fell down, but the dragon still maintained its ability to fly. And now, the tigers that the old man had just drawn with great effort were surrounding him. The old man said with a pale face, "I can't hold on any longer, get rid of them quickly." The peacock, the real dragon, and the tiger all looked extremely ferocious, but in fact the old man was at the end of his strength. To be honest, he didn't expect that there was an ambush of the Twilight Squad nearby. The old man was just an A-level killer, and he made such a big investment this time in order to join Anjing Temple. The young man who was controlling the metal laughed and said, "Old man, please be patient, they are at the end of their rope." The young man walked towards the Twilight Squad step by step on the empty long street. A member of the Twilight Squad wanted to shoot him, but the gun in his hand slipped out of his hand and flew in front of the young man and floated. The members of the Dusk Squad wanted to draw their swords again, but even the swords on their waists were confiscated by the young man. The captain of the Dusk Squad said coldly, "Vanilla, it's a pity that I couldn't kill you last time." The young man named Vanilla smiled happily and said, "Then don't kill me tomorrow. I didn't expect that I would appear here. Remember to bring a ceramic knife next time." As soon as the voice fell, the swords and metals suspended by Vanilla's side swept towards the Dusk Squad. But at this time, the members of the Dusk Squad showed extremely strong physical fitness. The fast-flying metal object could not even touch their bodies while they were dodging. Although Vanilla can control metal and the mass he can control is extremely large, the speed at which he can control the movement of metal is not fast enough. However, the remaining 3 members of the Dusk Squad turned around and retreated decisively after dodging Vanilla's round of attacks, and the young man who controlled the metal did not chase them. The old man playing with sugar painting gasped and said, "Why don't you kill them?" Of course, the extraordinary people of barrier number 63 will encircle and suppress them. If we kill them, how can we leave? Vanilla smiled, "We need them to attract the attention of barrier number 63 now, and, didn't you find that I can't hit them?" "Okay, then I have to retreat too," said the old man. "This time the early morning squad has been killed, including a member of the Dusk Squad. Don't worry, the boss will definitely give you a corresponding reward," Vanilla said with a smile. At this time, a voice sounded in his earphones. Vanilla was stunned for a moment and smiled at the old man. "Congratulations, 1,383,792. The boss said that you can participate in the next Anjing Temple selection. Now you can go to the safe house with me." The old man was surprised and said, "Really? Anjing Temple never makes promises easily. Come with me. After you join Anjing Temple, you can have your own code name. To be honest, your current names and numbers are really hard to remember." Vanilla turned and left. Horizontal ellipsis. The pursuit of barrier number 63 will continue for a long time, and there will be 2 to 3 more extraordinary people involved in this pursuit. In Vanilla's opinion, even if those people from the Spark Company don't die, they will be skinned alive. Anjing Temple has been dealing with the Spark Company for so long, and is not in a hurry to root it out. In fact, neither side can do this now, and can only slowly calculate against each other. After they left, there were a few scattered paper cranes flying high in the night sky. Some of them followed the Spark Company silently, and the other part went to the place where Ren Xiaosu had just fought. The paper crane first went to the rooftop where Ren Xiaosu was attacked, and then followed Ren Xiaosu's escape route all the way to the place where Ren Xiaosu killed 3 people. The small and exquisite paper crane flew around the rooftop, as if to record all the details, without letting go of every corner. Immediately, the 1,000 paper cranes flapped their wings and flew high into the sky, cautiously rising several hundred meters before continuing to fly towards barrier number 61, feeding back all the information they saw to their host. One day later, someone in a certain residence received a new text message. The person who read the text message was more and more surprised. The boss said that the sniper who appeared that night actually wiped out the entire Dusk Squad by himself? Is this another extraordinary person who suddenly appeared from nowhere? Not really. Isn't it said that when these people were determined to escape, even Vanilla was a little angry? And the boss also said that this guy's sniping ability is also very strong, and it seems that he can adjust his heart rate while moving. A powerful sniper has a powerful melee extraordinary ability. Where did this monster come from? Why haven't I heard of it before? The person who read the text message said, by the way, the boss asked, did anyone complete the C-level task that was released later? Completed, but it was not completed by 1,583,850. Do you think this 1,583,850 is this extraordinary person? It shouldn't be. Which kind of cruel extraordinary person would come to do our D-level tasks? What else would he be doing? Thank you Siphon for becoming the new ally of this book. The boss is so generous. Chapter 488 The Mysterious Killer. 63 Rampart has dissipated. A small-scale battle will not cause much damage to the rampart, and neither side of the battle affected civilians, so the number of casualties among the residents of the rampart can be almost ignored. However, for the Wang group, the actual controller of the number 63 rampart, this is a provocation to the power by Anjing Temple and the Fire Company. For example, the old man who plays with sugar paintings and the vanilla who controls metals will immediately trigger a citywide manhunt if they are identified by the surveillance cameras when they enter the rampart under the jurisdiction of the Wang group in the future. The reason why the price of killing in the rampart of the Wang group is high is that most killers can only perform one mission here. Not everyone has the ability to fly over the eaves and walk on the walls like Ren Xiaosu. At this time, in the number 62 rampart, inside a huge monitoring room, hundreds of staff members are busy in each other's empty seats. In this monitoring room, there are hundreds of monitoring screens alone. The all-white interior has a strong sense of technology. Wang Shengzi was pushed in by Wang Shengai in a wheelchair. He looked at the staff and smiled. Show me the AI report from last night and see what it says. AI had already issued an early warning when the killer codenamed Vanilla from Anjing Temple entered the barrier, marking this person as an illegal intruder, and the intrusion route was a truck carrying frozen pork. Said a staff member, we have found the truck, but the owner is missing. There is a specially modified secret compartment in the truck, and Vanilla should have hidden inside it to get in. As he spoke, the staff handed Wang Shengzi a document. The analysis report of the entire document was quite standard. Except for the old man playing with sugar paintings, everyone else was actually within the scope of the early warning. Wang Shengzi had foreseen this small-scale battle a long time ago, but the staff didn't know why they watched it happen. Perhaps in Wang Shengzi's plan, he wanted to let Huazian Company and Anjing Temple accumulate more resentment against each other. At this time, Wang Shengzi was flipping through the analysis report, and suddenly saw the last analysis. What caught his eye were 9 photos, and in each photo, there was a blurry figure flying over the roof. The staff member next to him explained, the other party has been active on the rooftop, and he has carefully avoided our rooftop surveillance. This photo was taken because the artificial intelligence noticed him, so it was taken through the surveillance on the high-rise building in the distance. Wang Shengzi nodded and looked at the follow-up analysis report. This person is 184 centimeters tall, with unknown abilities. 6 members of the Spark Company should have been killed by this person at night, 1 member of the early morning team, and 5 members of the dusk team. This person is extremely dangerous, and it is recommended to pursue him with all efforts. Have you not found any traces of this person since then? Wang Shengzi looked up and asked. No, the staff member shook his head. The artificial intelligence analyzed that he should have escaped from the barrier. Isn't he from Anjing Temple? Wang Shengzi asked curiously. No, look at the last page. The artificial intelligence analyzed the power affiliation attributes of all the participants, and only he has a separate unknown attribute. The staff member shook his head. Wang Shengai looked at the blurry figure curiously from behind Wang Shengzi. Why do I feel that this person is so familiar? I seem to have seen him somewhere. Everyone was stunned for a moment and looked at Wang Shengai, but heard Wang Shengai shook her head and laughed. The photo is too blurry, maybe I saw it wrong. Wang Shengzi smiled and shook his head. Since this person has been listed as extremely dangerous by artificial intelligence, next time you find him, you must be careful. When Ren Xiaosu returned to barrier number 61, he did not go home at the first time, but went to the tavern. He had not eaten a hot meal for many days, so Ren Xiaosu had to go eat something. Before he arrived at the tavern, Ren Xiaosu could see the little deer girl by the window from a distance. The little deer girl seemed to be folding something on the table with her head down. She looked up and saw Ren Xiaosu when she heard footsteps. As a result, Ren Xiaosu was about to say hello to her, but heard the little deer scream, then took everything on the table in her arms and ran to the backyard of the tavern. The hand that Ren Xiaosu had just raised could only greet the air. He walked into the tavern, and the storyteller was telling a story. You may not know that a big thing happened at barrier number 63 recently. It is said that the fire company and Anjing Temple have been grudges for a long time. The two sides set up a killing game at barrier number 63. The fire company wanted to capture the extraordinary people of Anjing Temple, while Anjing Temple wanted to catch the fire company in one fell swoop. An old man waved his hand on the aluminum plate, and the real dragon he drew with syrup actually flew into the air. Ren Xiaosu was stunned when he heard this. The incident at barrier number 63 happened only 2 days ago, but the storyteller already knew about it. But he didn't care. After all, he had long known that the other party was not an ordinary person, and he didn't particularly care where the other party's information came from. It was just right, so he also listened to how the outside intelligence viewed this small-scale war. But the storyteller continued, but the fire company and Anjing Temple are not the protagonists of this battle. The protagonist is someone else. In this battle, the fire company sent a total of 15 people, but there was a mysterious visitor who killed 6 people by himself. Ren Xiaosu heard it, and at least half of the storyteller's story had his figure. At this time, Xiaolu entered the tavern from the backyard again. She sat opposite Ren Xiaosu and asked casually, "Did you see what I was doing just now?" "No," Ren Xiaosu smiled after ordering a mutton soup bun from the waiter. "What were you doing just now?" "Nothing." Xiaolu changed the subject and said, "After you finish your meal, go home and take a look. Recently, people in the market town said that your yard is haunted. There are always people crying and howling in the middle of the night, but no one dares to go in to see, for fear of being eaten by ghosts." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. How could such a haunted thing happen to him? But he just paused for a moment and roughly understood what was going on. Ren Xiaosu asked, "Are there any strange things happening in the town recently?" The little deer glanced at the storyteller secretly, and then whispered, "Don't tell Grandpa that I said it. Be careful recently. It seems that someone is looking for you, but Grandpa helped you keep it secret." Ren Xiaosu grinned, "Thank you. Grandpa didn't let me remind you, so don't tell him," the little deer reminded happily in a low voice. The storyteller on the side was telling a story, and his voice paused obviously. He almost forgot the story he was going to tell later. What a sin. Chapter 489, Liberal Arts and Science. Someone once said that after one of the 5 senses of human beings is shut down, the other aspects will be slightly enhanced. The so-called 5 senses are form, color, sound, taste and touch. But the human body has more than 5 senses. There is also the legendary 6th sense, which is the soul. Some people ask, do people really have souls? Can people really exist in the form of souls, and even that soul has enough ability to influence reality? Someone once tried to close his taste, hearing, vision, etc. year by year. After closing them one by one, the 5 senses that were promoted will be greatly improved, as if those 5 senses that were abolished were all concentrated on one sense, touch. Then he ended his life at the moment when his emotions fluctuated most violently, that is, he ended his sense of touch. Some people say that from that moment on, he will exist as the 6th sense, that is, the soul, but no one has confirmed this, and no one has seen the soul of that ruthless man. Back to the current situation, talking about the 5 senses, some people will become very good at hearing after they become blind, but this is not universal. On the contrary, the memory of blind people is generally better than that of normal people. The storyteller was the type with excellent hearing and memory, so he heard everything that Xiaolu said to Ren Xiaosu clearly. Now, his granddaughter was actually telling outsiders something behind his back. After finishing his meal, Ren Xiaosu walked slowly towards his home. Now he was a familiar face in the market town, but most people's impression of him was that he was rich. In the past, not only did refugees come to seek help, but also special professions came to his door in the middle of the night and asked you if he wanted any service, but he refused them all, and sometimes even drove them away without even opening the door. As for the haunting that Xiaolu said, he did guess what was going on. The door lock of the house was intact. Ren Xiaosu opened the door with the key and walked straight into the backyard. As a result, he saw 5 people lying on the ground in the yard, and there were broken potatoes all over the ground. These 5 people were ordinary people, and they had been killed by the potato shooter a long time ago. However, Ren Xiaosu did not have any psychological burden. He saw that there were several bone knives scattered in the yard. If an ordinary person was in the yard, he would have been killed by these people. Everyone in the market town knew that Ren Xiaosu was rich, so from time to time there would be thieves in his house. In the past, Ren Xiaosu did it himself, and then put it in the storage space and took it to the wilderness to bury it. But now it is easier, and the potato shooter can help him deal with it. The so-called haunted incident is probably the sound of these people screaming and screaming after being beaten by the potato shooter after they broke into the backyard. Let Ren Xiaosu think about it himself, and he also thinks that night must be particularly creepy. The newly established recruitment office in the market town pays very high wages, and the work is to build roads. 178 Fortress and Wang's consortium have reached a cooperation. This road in the Central Plains will soon be built to the northwest, a fast road for cars, and another railway leading to the Yuanzong's barrier. The railway could not be built deeper into the northwest hinterland because of the frozen soil, which made construction too difficult and the maintenance cost too high. As a result, at this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly received another text message. The target is the early morning team of the Spark Company in the residential building at number 137 Lingbao Road, suspected of being ambushed by the Hidden Dusk team. A level, reward of 1 million, accepting cooperation with up to 5 people, and all of them can obtain the right to use the safe house once, and can be protected by our side when being chased. Ren Xiaosu is stunned. This task was very similar to the previous task of the number 63 barrier, and Anjing Temple directly increased the task level and reward. Previously, it allowed cooperation with up to 3 people, but now it has become 5 people. In fact, cooperation or not is all empty, which means that this task has 5 rewards. It seems that Anjing Temple is now going to fight with the Spark Company to the death. It has issued another task against the Spark Company so quickly. The two major organizations suddenly feel like they will never stop fighting. It may also be because of the ambush before that Anjing Temple was really angry and had to clean up the fire company from the Wang Group's territory. But this time Ren Xiaosu didn't plan to get involved. He found that no matter whether he was watching the fun or not, every time he planned to stay out of it, things would find him on their own initiative. The commotion in the number 63 barrier was too big before. What if Anjing Temple and the fire company came to find him together? That would be interesting. Moreover, the Anjing Temple mission was immediately refreshed in the number 61 barrier. Maybe they wanted to find him? Otherwise, how could it be such a coincidence? So, Ren Xiaosu simply made up for his sleep at home. In the evening, there were gunshots and even the roar of artillery fire in the barrier, which woke Ren Xiaosu up directly. But he ran to the tavern for dinner as if nothing had happened. When he arrived at the tavern, the storyteller was resting and eating. The meal was nothing special, just a bowl of trousers belt noodles. Ren Xiaosu smiled and asked, "Where's the deer?" The storyteller didn't respond, but asked, "Why don't you go to the fortress to take a look?" "Why go there? I don't want to wade into that muddy water," Ren Xiaosu said to the waiter cheerfully. "Give me a bowl of trouser belt noodles, with more chili. I heard that you bought some new watermelons. Cut one for me and the old man to eat." The storyteller stared at Ren Xiaosu with his cloudy eyes. "Haven't you waded through enough muddy water?" "That's all because of life," Ren Xiaosu smiled. At this moment, the storyteller suddenly asked, "Let me ask you a question. A watermelon is divided into 3 pieces, and each piece is 0.333, right?" Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. "Yes. Then 0.333 times 3 equals 0.999. Let me ask you, where did the remaining 0.001 go?" The storyteller asked calmly. Ren Xiaosu thought for a while. "On the knife?" "Yes, on the knife." The storyteller paused for a long while. "You are indeed biased in both arts and sciences." Ren Xiaosu's expression suddenly became serious. He was just joking just now. He was not so ignorant of the endless truth after the decimal point. But now, the so-called bias in both arts and sciences is not just from the Northwest, and the storyteller mentioned this with obvious intention. Ren Xiaosu asked calmly, "Grandpa, do you know who I am? People always say that only fierce dragons can cross the river, but how many dragons can cross the river in this world?" The storyteller shoveled all the remaining noodles in the bowl into his mouth. "I warn you, dangerous people like you should not come to mess with my granddaughter." At this time, Xiaolu suddenly came in from the backyard with a watermelon. "Grandpa, The guy said, "You want to eat watermelon? I have cut it for you." The storyteller threw the chopsticks on the table. How could this watermelon be cut for himself? Thanks to Cao Zixi for becoming the new leader of this book. The boss is generous. On the occasion of the National Day. 2 updates today. The author also wants to celebrate with everyone, right? Chapter 490, Meet an Acquaintance Again, Su. The storyteller's words made Ren Xiaosu a little bit amused. When did he set his sights on his granddaughter? There was no such thing at all. However, at this time, both of them noticed that the sound of fighting in the barrier did not decrease with the passage of time, but instead had a tendency to intensify. Ren Xiaosu knew in his heart that the previous battle in the barrier number 63 ended so quickly because of his sudden joining. After all, the people in the dusk team were not weak. If ordinary extraordinary people met them, they might capsize in the ditch. The combat sequence of the Spark Company was probably because it could be mass-produced, so it always had a great advantage in quantity. Ren Xiaosu suddenly sighed and said, "When will the cycle of revenge end?" As a result, the storyteller, who was concentrating on listening to the sound of the battle, suddenly said seriously, "This is not hatred, but a dispute over the paths and ideas of their 2 organizations. You have to understand that without these paths and ideas, they can hardly be called an organization." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. This was probably the root cause of the conflict between Qingzhen and the thugs. Qingzhen regarded nuclear energy as a gift from nature, and he thought that humans should make good use of those gifts. But the thugs thought that humans should not have weapons that could destroy themselves, because humans are greedy and unrestrained. Even if you, Qingzhen, can guarantee that you will not use them, what about your descendants? And there is Fortress 178. If those rough guys did not have a heart to protect the barrier, they would probably not have such a strong will. But these are not what Ren Xiaosu should consider now. He has never thought about setting up any organization, so these things are not related to him. At this time, the sound of the battle was getting louder and louder, so that the refugees in the market town stood outside the barrier wall and stopped to watch. It seemed as if a raging fire was burning inside the fortress, and the firelight from the sky illuminated the ragged refugees outside. It seems that Anjing Temple didn't gain any advantage, the storyteller sighed. Ren Xiaosu asked, "Grandpa, are you on the side of Anjing Temple?" The storyteller smiled and said, "After all, it is difficult for normal people to have a good impression of an organization like the Spark Company. No matter what it was like in the past, the current Spark Company has gone astray on the road of genetic evolution. According to what you mean, this Spark Company was not bad before?" Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. "It is said that although they were a bit extreme before the catastrophe, they were restrained anyway," the storyteller said. "After the catastrophe, the world lost order, so their ambitions expanded too quickly." Ren Xiaosu muttered, "I didn't feel they were that powerful." The storyteller was choked, and he said unhappily, "How can an organization that can radiate the entire barrier alliance, an organization that can control 10 barriers, not be powerful? You think it is not powerful because you killed a few of them and think those people are not powerful, but what if you face 100 people in a higher combat sequence? An organization that can mass-produce super soldiers. Never judge the strength of an organization by the strength of its individuals, you have to multiply it by the number." Ren Xiaosu smacked his lips. "Okay." As soon as he finished speaking, Ren Xiaosu suddenly heard the palace speak. "Mission, shelter the injured for 3 days." Ren Xiaosu was stunned. He was afraid that he hadn't heard the palace issue a mission for 2 months. You know, when he was at barrier number 63 a few days ago, he saw someone manipulating metal and drawing a real dragon, and he wanted to learn it. The skill of drawing dragons will be very useful for entertaining children when you have children in the future. Ahem, I'm thinking too far. I want to learn, but I can't learn anything without a perfect skill map, so the mission is the basis. However, the palace suddenly said that it would take in the injured. There must be a reason for this. Ren Xiaosu got up and left. The storyteller asked behind him, "Where are you going? Didn't you say you don't want to get involved in this muddy water?" Ren Xiaosu said unhappily, "I'm going home to sleep." This is not him going to get involved in the muddy water. Judging from the palace's intention, the muddy water is clearly flooding his house. Walking back, Ren Xiaosu kept passing by refugees who were watching the excitement in the market town. The refugees didn't have much good entertainment at night. Seeing the fight in the fortress, the refugees wished that the fight would continue for a while. Anyway, The bigwigs who were causing trouble have always looked down on the market town. Even if there was a war occasionally, the hostile forces would not do anything to the refugees, because everyone needed refugees to work for them, and the factory couldn't be empty. Ren Xiaosu arrived at his door and first checked the door. The lock was still intact, but he could already smell the sweet smell through the crack of the door. It was the smell of blood. He took the key to open the door as if nothing had happened. As soon as he pushed the door open, he saw a disheveled figure rushing towards him. The other party had a dagger in his hand. What surprised Ren Xiaosu was that 2 vines grew out of the ground, as if they were going to wrap around his ankles. However, the other party's sneak attack on Ren Xiaosu seemed to have affected his wound, so that his movements were distorted, and the vines under the ground also drooped weakly. Ren Xiaosu easily grasped the other party's wrist that was waving the dagger, but he let out a light exclamation. The wrist was very slender, and it was actually a woman's wrist. However, Ren Xiaosu was not a man who sympathized with women. He immediately hit the other party's carotid artery with a knife, and then he looked at the other party leisurely. This look surprised Ren Xiaosu even more. The other party was actually an old acquaintance. Zhou Yingsu. How could the young spy who tried to lure him to approach him in the number 88 barrier but ended up jumping rubber rope with him appear here, and look like he was seriously injured? When the number 88 barrier was destroyed, Ren Xiaosu also caught Zhou Yingsu, but at that time Zhou Yingsu was eager to go back to save her mother, so he thought about it and let her go. Unexpectedly, they met again here. Ren Xiaosu carried Zhou Yingsu to the backyard, and saw that the potato shooters were as honest as quails. Perhaps because Zhou Yingsu's extraordinary ability was to control plants, she was spared from being beaten to death by the potato shooters. Just now Zhou Yingsu controlled 2 vines in the field to attack Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu said to the potato shooters unhappily, "She can control plants, so you won't attack her? Are you ambitious?" As a result, the 5 potato shooters gently spit out a few potatoes, as if to please Ren Xiaosu, and give you potatoes to eat. Ren Xiaosu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What the hell was going on? He looked at Zhou Yingsu who was thrown aside by him, and then listened to the continuous gunfire in the fortress. It should be that the troops of the Wang group have begun to attack, so the gunfire was particularly dense. Chapter 491 Mission Mystery. The battle in the fortress lasted until late at night, but it still hadn't stopped. Ren Xiaosu could still hear the gunshots from the fortress from time to time in the yard. Ren Xiaosu thought that if he hadn't been in fortress number 63 the day before yesterday, the battle would have lasted this long. Fortunately, it was the battle in the fortress that attracted the attention of the defenders of fortress number 63, otherwise they would have come to search for Zhou Yingsu. I don't know if Zhou Yingsu was seen when she escaped, but how to deal with Zhou Yingsu? He tied Zhou Yingsu up directly. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt that it seemed that the 2 times he met Zhou Yingsu, he tied her up first. This way of meeting was a bit wrong. Zhou Yingsu slowly woke up. She struggled on the chair for a few times, and when she found that she couldn't move, she looked up and stared at Ren Xiaosu. "What do you want to do? Why are you here? Are you here to arrest me? Have you joined the Spark Company or the Wang Group?" "Wait a minute," Ren Xiaosu said, "this is my home. You came to my house in the middle of the night and asked me why I was here. Is that appropriate? Shouldn't I be the one asking you why you are here? What do you want from me?" Zhou Yingsu was so angry that she almost went into shock when she heard this. "Who has any plans for you?" Exclamation mark. But Zhou Yingsu didn't understand. Why was this Ren Xiaosu's home? Isn't this the market town outside barrier number 61? In Zhou Yingsu's opinion, Ren Xiaosu was a superhuman who was much more powerful than her, and he shouldn't live in a market town. But she had lost too much blood at this moment, and even her ability to think was somewhat lacking. She could only argue with all her might, "Keep making it up, keep making it up. How could someone like you live here?" Then, Zhou Yingsu silently watched Ren Xiaosu pick up the key and the door lock. With a slight twist of the key, the lock opened. As if afraid that Zhou Yingsu didn't see it clearly, Ren Xiaosu locked the door again, and then opened it again. He repeated this many times, as if silently mocking Zhou Yingsu. Zhou Yingsu felt a little pain in the back of her head. "Don't open it, don't open it." She couldn't understand. How could there be such an annoying contestant in the world? Exclamation mark. Ren Xiaosu laughed cheerfully and said, "This is the lock of my house. I planted plants in the backyard. I asked a carpenter to make the chair you are sitting on. On the bedside table next to the chair are books I brought from the 88 Barrier Library. No, borrowed books. This time, Jo Yingsu finally believed it. She was silent for a moment and asked, "Why are you here? Where did you go after the 88 Barrier was destroyed? Did you destroy the 88 Barrier?" Ren Xiaosu asked, "You are responsible for part of Yang's intelligence work. Don't you know that it was Li's nano warriors who destroyed the 88 Barrier? You must have seen those crazy warriors that night. By the way, did you rescue your mother?" Rescued? Jo Yingsu thought that it was Ren Xiaosu who let her go and saved her mother, so the tension was slightly reduced. But Jo Yingsu thought again, that's not right, she was also kidnapped by Ren Xiaosu at that time. At that time, she had just bought vegetables and was going home to cook for her mother, but she met this guy on the way and was knocked unconscious. Jo Yingsu asked, "What do you want to do now?" "Come on, I'll ask you a question," Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. "Are you from Anjing Temple?" "No," Jo Yingsu shook her head, "at least not yet." "That means they are A-level killers on the periphery, right?" Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. "You are a woman, it's hard for me to search you. Where's your phone? Give it to me." Jo Yingsu had long lost the charming demeanor she had in the library, but a tight black short-sleeved shirt and pants made her look quite neat. In fact, Jo Yingsu was not good-looking, she could only be considered above average, but she had a certain temperament that was outstanding. Jo Yingsu suddenly asked, "How do you know about Anjing Temple and the killers on the periphery?" "Ahem," Ren Xiaosu said reservedly, "it just so happens that I am also a killer on the periphery." Jo Yingsu was really confused this time. "Are you also an A-level killer?" "No, I am a D-level." Ren Xiaosu took out a D-level phone that he had snatched but never used. Jo Yingsu suddenly burst into laughter. "What? You are D-level? Are you kidding? How can a superhuman like you come to be a D-level killer?" Ren Xiaosu was unhappy. "Isn't it funny? Don't you have to complete tasks to level up slowly? Did you start from D-level?" "Of course not," Jo Yingsu laughed. "Superhumans will get new phones directly after revealing their identities, and even the tasks inside will be different. Your phone is a D-level phone stolen from someone else. You can't see tasks below A-level, and A-level requires fingerprint matching." "No, I can receive A-level tasks," Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion. "Wait, I actually didn't receive A-level tasks before, but since I did things in Barrier 61 and Barrier 63, I can receive them." He took out Jo Yingsu's phone from her right trouser pocket. Jo Yingsu's phone was obviously more sophisticated than his, the camera pixels were clearer, and there was a place specifically for verifying fingerprints to unlock the phone. So, the reason why he could receive the A-level mission was because Anjing Temple had given him special treatment after they found out that he was causing trouble. Then he had to be more careful when completing missions in the future. Although he could have directly obtained the A-level by revealing his status as a superhuman to Anjing Temple like Jo Yingsu, he just didn't want to reveal his identity. Steal an A-level mobile phone? As a result, Anjing Temple was so cunning that it replaced the fingerprint recognition of the A-level mobile phone, one phone per person. So, when you reach the A-level, you need to change your mobile phone. If you change your mobile phone, it must be delivered in person by someone from Anjing Temple, and the fingerprint system must be set up. Will your identity still be exposed at that time? Ren Xiaosu asked. "Was your mobile phone given to you in person by a member of Anjing Temple?" "No," Jo Yingsu shook her head, "it was brought by a white paper crane. Anjing Temple never asks about the identity of the killer. It is up to you to hide your identity or reveal it." Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that this was the case. He didn't need to deliver it in person. However, at this time, he finally confirmed that the superhuman who could control the paper crane belonged to Anjing Temple, but he didn't know what position the other party held in Anjing Temple. His status should not be too high, after all, he just looks like a postman or a messenger. At this moment, Jo Yingsu suddenly said, "Untie me, I want to clean my wounds, and I will tell you the information you want to know later. If you don't treat my wounds, I will die." Chapter 492 The person I like is much prettier than you. Ren Xiaosu glanced at Jo Yingsu's wound and said, "Don't worry, they are not fatal. She won't die within 3 days." Jo Yingsu was furious. What did she mean by she won't die within 3 days? I'm not going to live for only 3 days. If I die, who will take care of my mother? My mother is over 50 and has cancer. Do you think I'm a killer for myself? I need to make money to treat her illness. Upon hearing this, Ren Xiaosu was silent for a moment and untied the rope for her. He couldn't stand hearing this. Zhou Yingsu was relieved. She had made the right bet. Ren Xiaosu was a person with a bottom line. He let her go last time and he can do it this time. If he had been replaced by someone without a bottom line, he wouldn't care about her mother's life or death. Zhou Yingsu would definitely not be able to escape this time. She might even suffer inhuman humiliation before she died. Fortunately, she met Ren Xiaosu. But Zhou Yingsu thought again, if the person she met was not such a powerful extraordinary person like Ren Xiaosu, she would not have been tied up. After being untied, Zhou Yingsu whispered, I need to treat my wounds, can you go out first? You treat your wounds, why should I go out? Zhou Yingsu said softly, I want to take off my clothes. Ren Xiaosu said calmly, if you say so, I won't be sleepy. I know you are not that kind of person, Zhou Yingsu whispered. Ren Xiaosu raised his eyebrows, but in the end he didn't say anything and went to the backyard to peel potatoes. Zhou Yingsu breathed a sigh of relief again. It must be said that it was a blessing to meet such a man with a bottom line in this day and age. She suddenly became curious that such a powerful extraordinary person like Ren Xiaosu was actually a person with a bottom line. If she hadn't been let go by Ren Xiaosu before, she really couldn't believe it. She slowly took off her short-sleeved shirt in the house. There was a rustling sound in the house, but Ren Xiaosu was still peeling potatoes as if no one was around. Zhou Yingsu quietly observed and found that Ren Xiaosu really would not come into the house, so she suddenly moved towards the door, wanting to take this opportunity to escape. As a result, Ren Xiaosu's voice floated in, if you take 2 more steps, you will definitely die. Do you believe it? Zhou Yingsu's body froze for a moment. She explained, I just want to find a needle and thread to sew up the wound. My knife wound is very deep and must be sutured. As she spoke, a box of needles and thread was thrown in from outside, as well as a small bottle of black medicine. Use this medicine after suturing, and remember to say thank you. Zhou Yingsu was helpless. She found that although she was a feared A-level killer on weekdays, she felt powerless all the time when facing Ren Xiaosu. In the past, when they were at the 88th barrier, the boy looked harmless and how could he be so scary? But after she was defeated by Ren Xiaosu once, she understood what level Ren Xiaosu was. I'm afraid that even if the official members of Anjing Temple came, they would not be able to do anything to Ren Xiaosu. Zhou Yingsu could only focus on healing her wounds. While she was stitching her own wounds, she asked, why did you come here to be an outside killer for Anjing Temple? Ren Xiaosu replied while peeling potatoes, to make money. Then just tell Anjing Temple that you are a superhuman. Zhou Yingsu was puzzled, but she immediately realized, no, you don't want to reveal your identity. Ren Xiaosu said expressionlessly, you know too much? Zhou Yingsu was shocked and quickly changed the subject, saying, but with your strength, you will be able to be promoted to the next level soon. Why are you still at level D? I just bought a cell phone, too, Ren Xiaosu said, are you dressed? Yes. 10 minutes later, Zhou Yingsu sat on a chair, looking at the ropes that were tied around her body again, and said angrily, we are old acquaintances after all, and I am an injured girl. How can you do this to me? Are you still a man? Ren Xiaosu fell asleep on the bed as if no one was around. Before he went to sleep, he patiently said, because of you, I haven't slept yet at dawn. Don't keep talking nonsense next to me, or I'll have to shut your mouth. Be more conscious, okay? Zhou Yingsu stopped talking. She found that when Ren Xiaosu slept, he always pointed a gun at her. Until noon, Zhou Yingsu slowly woke up in the chair. She also slept, but her sleep was not sound. When she woke up, she asked about the fragrance in the kitchen and asked curiously, what did you cook? Potatoes. Ren Xiaosu replied calmly, don't you know what those plants in my backyard are for? Zhou Yingsu was at a loss, I don't know. She could only make plants feel friendly to her, but the plants she could control had to be seeds planted within her ability. In fact, Zhou Yingsu's ability was not strong, at least in actual combat, it was far inferior to controlling metal and drawing dragons. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is one of the weakest A-level killers. At this moment, Zhou Yingsu's cell phone rang. Ren Xiaosu picked it up and saw that it was a text message, if you survived and escaped, please reply 1. If you need a safe house or support, please reply 2. Ren Xiaosu untied the rope for Zhou Yingsu, reply 1 yourself. Zhou Yingsu was a little confused, why did you tie me up here? If you are afraid that I will leak the secret, wouldn't it be easier to kill me directly? If you are not afraid of me leaking the secret, why not let me go directly? It will be safer for you. This way, if someone searches this place, no one will find me here. At this point, Zhou Yingsu suddenly became terrified. You are not going to keep me here. What a mess, Ren Xiaosu said unhappily. You stay here for 3 days and go wherever you want after that. As for the search, don't worry. Most likely, the killers in the barrier and the members of the Spark Company have been caught in one fell swoop, so the Wang Group has not conducted any follow-up pursuit. Anyway, I haven't even seen a wanted notice. Zhou Yingsu's mind was in a mess. She felt that things seemed to be in chaos after she met Ren Xiaosu. She couldn't figure out what Ren Xiaosu was after. Last time, he even made her jump rubber rope. Obviously, he is not a normal person. Zhou Yingsu asked curiously, you really don't want to occupy me? Ren Xiaosu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The person I like is much more beautiful than you. Zhou Yingsu almost fainted again when she heard this. You might as well say that you want to occupy me. She, Zhou Yingsu, couldn't stand this grievance. Ren Xiaosu looked at Zhou Yingsu's sulking look and felt a little strange. Why was this woman so strange? She said that she had no feelings for her, but she got angry. I originally wanted to take advantage of the fact that there are no chapters and no comments these days to post 2 chapters in a few days. After all, you can't criticize me. But think about it, sooner or later you will have to pay for what you did, so I'd better resume 3 chapters. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493 Black Market. The person you like. Zhou Yingsu looked at Ren Xiaosu. It must be Yang Xiaojun, right? Ren Xiaosu remained silent and did not answer the question. But Zhou Yingsu said, if it is Yang Xiaojun, then I admit that she is indeed prettier than me. But didn't you leave Barrier 88 with Yang Xiaojun? Why didn't you see her? Zhou Yingsu remembered that Ren Xiaosu went to the Northern River Valley area with Yang Xiaojun to suppress bandits, and then Yang Xiaojun never came back. Ren Xiaosu glanced at Zhou Yingsu. Don't mind your own business. Have you heard any news about the thugs during your time in Central Plains? No, Zhou Yingsu shook her head. Although the thugs have been active frequently in Central Plains in recent years, they are more secretive and organized than imagined. Some people say that they are hiding behind a certain organization and remotely controlling them, but no one knows which organization it is. Okay, Ren Xiaosu sighed. He had been in Central Plains for 2 months, but he hadn't found anyone yet. The fighting in the number 61 fort finally stopped. The refugees were tired of the excitement in the middle of the night, but they could not fall asleep even when they returned to their shacks. When they woke up in the morning and went to the factory, they all stared at the dark circles under their eyes and yawned. But on the way to the factory with their co-workers, they were still discussing the fight last night with great interest, and they were also excitedly guessing what the fight was about. Unlike the gloomy expressions of the residents of the fort, the refugees did not think that this battle had anything to do with them. The refugees and the residents of the fort seemed to live in 2 different worlds, and even their positions and values were separated by a huge gap. Every time Ren Xiaosu saw these things, he would feel a little emotional, but Zhou Yingsu didn't care about these. She just wanted to ask Ren Xiaosu, why are we eating potatoes for every meal? Ren Xiaosu said nonchalantly, just make do with it. It's good to have potatoes. As he said that, Ren Xiaosu untied the rope for Zhou Yingsu and stuffed 2 cooked potatoes into Zhou Yingsu's hands. Zhou Yingsu took advantage of this rare free time to quickly move her joints so that her stiff joints would become flexible again. At this time, Ren Xiaosu is still chattering. You asked me yesterday, how could a superhuman like me live in a market town? Because I am a refugee. You have only eaten 2 meals of potatoes and you feel you can't eat any more, but you don't know that refugees in the northwest and southwest sometimes can't even eat potatoes. Who doesn't want to eat white rice and pasta? But can they eat it? Zhou Yingsu was stunned for a long time. She suddenly asked in a low voice, do you usually eat potatoes? No, Ren Xiaosu shook his head. I usually eat out. I have money. Zhou Yingsu. At that time, she wanted to smash the 2 potatoes in her hand on Ren Xiaosu's face, but she didn't dare. because she really couldn't afford to provoke him. Zhou Yingsu said coldly, I want to go to a restaurant, too. I think you're dreaming, Ren Xiaosu said cheerfully. Do you really think that the Wang group is full of good-for-nothings? You just destroyed the fortress and turned around and walked around in the town. For a moment, Zhou Yingsu felt sad. She was a superhuman after all, so why was she so powerless when facing Ren Xiaosu? In the past, she had many young talents pursuing her in the 88th fortress. She was also a leader in the Yang's intelligence system in terms of assassination, intelligence, and infiltration. Otherwise, other A-level assassins would not be fighting for their lives in the fortress, but she had already escaped from the fortress. But such a superhuman now can only eat potatoes to survive. Wait, Zhou Yingsu suddenly asked, where did the plants in your backyard come from? At this time, Zhou Yingsu finally felt that something was wrong. She saw with her own eyes that Ren Xiaosu made the plants spit out potatoes. That scene almost overturned her cognition. Don't potatoes grow underground? Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, I had them when I bought this house. Do you think I would believe it? Zhou Yingsu said stubbornly. Those are the seeds I bought from someone else, Ren Xiaosu said with a cheerful laugh. Nonsense, I haven't seen anyone selling such strange seeds on the black market, Zhou Yingsu frowned. Black market? Ren Xiaosu became interested instead. Is there a black market in the Central Plains? Haven't you seen a black market? Zhou Yingsu was stunned for a moment. No matter where you are, there are such underground trading places, and the things sold are all contraband. Are there any flying treasures in the sky, or any legendary magic jewels? Isn't this the era of the extraordinary? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. None of the things you mention exist, Zhou Yingsu rolled her eyes. The main trade there is arms and medicine, as well as pre-disaster technology that various small groups have dug up from nowhere, and finally intelligence trading. I also bought my first mobile phone on the black market. Ren Xiaosu said, can the phones of peripheral killers be bought on the black market? How much is a mobile phone? 500,000. Zhou Yingsu said. Ren Xiaosu was shocked. So expensive? The reward for a D-level mission is only 20,000 yuan. But if you are promoted to C-level, you can earn it back by completing 5 missions, Zhou Yingsu said. And some of these phones are not bought by killers, but by some bigwigs who are hostile to Anjing Temple for self-defense. Although they can't see A-level missions, B-level and below can see them. If Anjing Temple issues a mission, they can make preparations in advance. Hey, doesn't Anjing Temple know about this? Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion. They don't seem to care, Zhou Yingsu said. What else is there on the black market? Ren Xiaosu asked. By the way, there are many killers who live in the black market for a long time, because there are the safest hotels there. When Anjing Temple releases collaborative tasks, the killers can connect through the hotel and form a small group. After completing the task, they will disband, Zhou Yingsu said. For example, the task of barrier number 63 the day before yesterday, or the task of barrier number 61 yesterday, can all be completed collaboratively. Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that when he saw the text message before, he was still thinking that those killers usually hide their tracks and don't know each other, so how can they cooperate? It turns out that there is another world in this dark underground organization. Now, Ren Xiaosu is a little interested in this black market. I don't know what level he is among the killers in this black market. And there should be many A-level killers there, and you can even meet people from Anjing Temple. Just thinking about it, you know that this will be a place where extraordinary people gather. He is about to complete the task of taking in Zhou Yingsu. When the time comes, it will be great to take the skill map to replicate the skills. He is still thinking about the skill of Tangxi Huolong. 2 days later, take me to the black market, Ren Xiaosu said to Zhou Yingsu. Chapter 494 Hostages and Railways. It was September, and the nights of Fortress 178 were already a bit cold. At this time, residents working outside began to return home with generous subsidies. Because of the good treatment for working outside the fortress, many residents returned home to rest after working outside for half a year, and were idle throughout the winter. Of course, it was also because the winter in the northwest was particularly cold. Now, there are still many residents working in the factories outside. By the end of October, the roads outside will be blocked by ice and snow. At that time, only the soldiers of the border post of Fortress 178 will be left outside. They will guard there for the whole winter, with no entertainment activities, and even need to stand guard. Some people taught themselves handicrafts, harmonica, accordion, and many strange skills. It's not that everyone is eager to learn, but because they are lonely. This is just their way to relieve loneliness in those border posts. In the evening, 6 off-road vehicles came from the southwest, piercing Fortress 178 like a sharp arrow. When they were approaching 170 kilometers, they were suddenly stopped by a patrol unit. The voice of the 178 Fortress patrol unit came from the car walkie-talkie, entering the radio control area. Please turn off your radio, pull over and accept inspection. Luolan in the car laughed happily, then pull over. The defense system of 178 Fortress has always been more rigorous. This is something that our Qing family can compare to. After all, their mission is to defend against foreign enemies. All 6 off-road vehicles turned off their car walkie-talkies and slowly parked on the road. Next to them, 3 combat teams climbed up from the wilderness and approached fully armed. Luolan got out of the car first and raised his hands. He was wearing sunglasses on his face, looking like a gangster boss who was engaged in smuggling. Friend, I am Luolan of the Qing family. I have already communicated with your commander Zhang on this trip. The soldiers of the 178 Fortress said calmly, please wait, I need to report this matter to the staff. While talking, the soldiers' guns were always aimed at Luolan, but Luolan was not panicked at all. Zhou Qi, who was standing next to him, curled his lips and said, why are you acting like you're guarding against thieves? Let's finish the things here quickly. We have to hurry to Zhangjian. The situation there has become turbulent. Don't worry, Luolan said with a smile, looking at the black muzzle of the gun next to him. Why don't you have the awareness of being a subordinate at all? A subordinate should understand that the matter of the Lord of the Qing family is the most urgent. Zhou Qi adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses and said, I'm paid to do this, not a subordinate. Haha, this is not something we should consider, Luolan said with a smile. The soldiers of Fort 178 looked at this fat man who remained calm and unmoved, and they also admired him in their hearts. He was a real man. Suddenly, the company commander of the company behind had contacted the staff department and confirmed the legitimate identity of Luolan and others approaching Fort 178, and agreed to let them pass. However, before letting them pass, all firearms must be confiscated and they must change to patrol vehicles. The convoy arrived at Fort 178 at night, but Zhang Jinglan did not come out to receive Luolan. Instead, Su Xianchu came to receive them. Luolan looked at Su Xianchu with a smile. He put his arm around his shoulders affectionately and praised him. Little brother Su is really young and promising. You have been wronged in my private army in the Qing family's fortress before. How about going to the southwest with us? You will definitely have a good time, endless wealth and glory. Su Xianchu politely refused. Don't dream. Luolan didn't take it as an offense. He still laughed and said, it's freezing cold in the northwest in winter. The fortress is not prosperous enough. It's not as interesting as our south. When you go to the southwest, I will find you 10 concubines. Zhou Qi sighed from the side. Fatty Luo, you really look like a villain in the story now. Luolan was unhappy. Although I kill people and set fires, I am a good man. Bah, Zhou Qi and Su Xianchu spat at the same time. Okay, let's not talk about anything else, let's talk about business, Luolan said to Su Xianchu. Let's find a place to exchange documents quickly so that we can leave with the documents. Su Xianchu led Luolan and the others to a remote and quiet street. Su Xianchu said, Commander Zhang told me about today's matter alone, so you don't have to worry about leaks. Besides, Fortress 178 is not comparable to others now. The number of spies from other forces must be the least in the world. Okay, stop bragging. I know your ability, Luolan said with a smile. At this time, Su Xianchu asked, where are the hostages you brought? Is it the man with the glasses next to you? Zhou Qi was unhappy. I have a name, what do you mean by a man with the glasses? As a result, Luolan waved to a soldier behind him, and Su Xianchu was stunned for a moment. Is he the hostage that Qing gave to Fortress 178? Don't send an insignificant person here. The soldier took off his hat, and there was a head of black hair scattered behind him like a waterfall. Luolan smiled and said, this is the girl that the leader of my Qing family likes. Is that enough? Su Xianchu frowned and looked behind him, only to see a middle-aged soldier walking out. Enough. Luolan was happy. You must be Wang Fingyan. I've heard of your name for a long time. Su Xianchu stopped talking. Since Wang Fengyan said it was enough, then it must be enough. Wang Fengyan didn't respond. You sent her here, aren't you afraid that we will counterattack the Qing family in the future? Don't worry, my Qing family has no idea of unifying the world. I hope that you and I will never fight each other. After saying that, Luo Lan turned and left. Zhou Qi chased after him and asked curiously, are we leaving now? Why didn't I know that Qing Zhen liked such a girl? Luo Lan said to himself, this girl was originally a singer in the 111 barrier. She was a star. The Presidium wanted to find Qing Zhen's weakness, but found out that Qing Zhen never went to the same theater to listen to opera, and he listened to which girl it was up to fate. But what the Presidium did not do wrong was that they didn't know which one Qing Zhen liked, so they closed all the theaters, arrested all the girls, and caught them all in one fell swoop. At that time, Qing Zhen realized that even if he changed theaters every day, it would be useless. In fact, when he stepped onto the stage, his opponents would be fiercer than he could imagine, and the opponents he would face in the future would definitely be more fierce than before. Zhou Qi sighed and said, so Qing Zhen sent her here as a hostage? I don't understand this even more. He, Zhang Jinglin, is a rare gentleman in the world. It is safest to send her here as a hostage. Luo Lan grinned and said, our Qing family will soon be unsafe. Qing Zhen can no longer be distracted to protect her. But Fortress 178 didn't send us hostages. Why should we give them hostages? Zhou Qi asked in confusion. Luo Lan said in a loud voice, of course it's for the railway. Previously, Qing family wanted to connect the railway and open up the Central Plains Road with Fortress 178, but was rejected by Zhang Jinglin. After 2 long months of negotiations, the two sides finally reached a consensus on this point. Qing family paid a huge price, but Qing Zhen thought it was worth it and took the initiative to ask for a hostage. But in fact, Luo Lan understood that this was a hostage, but in fact it was placed in Fortress 178 to let Fortress 178 protect this girl. As long as Qing family did not declare war on Fortress 178, Fortress 178 would be the safest shelter for this girl. Zhou Qi smacked his lips. This girl is not ordinary. She remained calm even after being sent here as a hostage. After all, she is the girl my brother likes, so she must be extraordinary. Ahem, while you can't criticize me for the last day, I'll update twice. Chapter 495 New World. After Luo Lan and the others left, the convoy of off-road vehicles drove towards the Central Plains in the rolling yellow sand behind them. Their destination this time was actually the Central Plains. On the way, Luo Lan didn't even dare to open the car window. He was worried that a gust of wind would blow in and he would eat a mouthful of sand. This damn place, only the people in Fortress 178 treat it like a treasure. I'm going to the colorful world of the Central Plains soon. I'm actually a little excited when I think about it. Zhou Qi sat next to him, but he had been silent for a long time, as if he was thinking about something. He suddenly said, I can understand that you want to open the railway line, but now that the Southwest is safe, why do you always look so full of crisis? Zhou Qi used to be the secretary of the Qing family's presidium, so although he looks sloppy now, he is not stupid. So he saw from Qing Zhen's behavior of sending the girl to the northwest that Qing was determined to form an alliance with Fortress 178. And how did you convince Fortress 178 to agree to let us build the railway? You know, after the railway is really built, it will only take 1 day for Fortress 111 to get to Fortress 178, or even less than a day. In this way, if Qing gets the upper hands in the future, as long as a stable forward base is established in front, then this railway will be like a lifeline, continuously transporting soldiers and military supplies. By then, the speed of transporting troops may be faster than that of mechanized troops. Wait, Zhou Qi said to himself, do you have a common enemy? But where is this enemy? It makes you feel like you are facing a formidable enemy. It's a bit exaggerated to say facing a formidable enemy, Luo Lan said with a smile. This can only be regarded as a rainy day preparation. The price we paid is not small. First of all, if Fortress 178 encounters foreign enemies again one day, the Qing army will rush to the battlefield. What? Zhou Qi was stunned for a moment. Will Zhang Jinglin agree to you to drive the army next to him? Of course not. Luo Lan shook his head. Starting today, the Qing army will open a corridor from the mountains further west to our southwest, diagonally into the heart of the plateau. If someone besieges Fortress 178, We will support and outflanking from the back. It's not easy to open up this corridor in the mountains, Zhou Qi said with emotion. It's also not easy to get Fortress 178 to agree to a railway integration. We can only say that both sides have made concessions and efforts, Luo Lan said calmly. Well, even if Zhang Jinglin believes that she will go to support him at that time, who is the enemy of the Qing army? Zhou Qi asked. The Wang family of Central Plains, Luo Lan said with a smile. You can't imagine it, right? In fact, I didn't think about it at first, why Qing Zhen would care so much about this Wang family. That's interesting, Zhou Qi became interested. I heard that Wang Shengzi is still in a wheelchair, and he always likes to be kind to others. Are you afraid of such a person? We are not afraid of anyone, Luo Lan looked at the yellow earth outside the window, but the Qing family is not as stable as imagined. Now the Qing family holds more than 40 barriers in its hands. It has become the most powerful organizational force in the entire Barrier Alliance. A big tree attracts the wind. Many people will begin to pay more attention to this land in the southwest. What does this have to do with the Wang family? Zhou Qi knew very little about the Wang group, so he asked this question. It took Wang Shengzi 10 years to unite the Wang group and then open up the most important resource channel in the northwest. He has also been implementing the compulsory military service policy for 10 years. Maybe nothing can be seen at first, as the Wang group does not have a lot of active troops. But things will be different over time. Once a war breaks out, almost all adult men under the age of 35 in the Wang group can immediately become soldiers, Luo Lan said calmly. He's just serving in the military, Zhou Qi asked doubtfully. If you say that this is the only reason to judge that he is always ready to wage war against others, then this is also a false accusation. Not only that, Qing Zhen said that Wangs started purchasing silk at high prices a few years ago, and the location of the Zhou group is one of the most suitable places for raising silkworms. Many Zhou's refugees fled into the mountains to raise silkworms, and Wangs quietly purchased them at high prices and provided material subsidies. But guess what? The Zhou found that their refugees were decreasing the year before last, many factories were short-staffed, and there was almost not enough food. Luo Lan chuckled. Of course, the Wang group has done a lot more. I want to know what Qing Zhen thinks of the Wang family. Zhou Qi frowned. Luo Lan said calmly. He said that Wang's family has the ambition to unify the Barrier Alliance. So Zhang Jinglin and Qing Zhen thought alike and agreed to your proposal, and then the two sides secretly united to resist future risks. Zhou Qi sighed and said, can't everyone live a good life? Making money, picking up girls, and enjoying a life of wealth and glory, isn't it good? Why do some people always want to take everything in the world into their pockets? Luo Lan smiled. You and I have seen a lot of human greed, but this Wang Shengzi is not greedy. This is the most terrifying. Moreover, the Qing family has some old rivals for many years. For example, the leader of the mob has never let go of his prejudice against us. For example, the Spark Company has also disliked us for a long time. Now that you put it that way, I actually feel that the whole world is our enemy. Zhou Qi said speechlessly. What I'm curious about is, does the Qing family really have a nuclear base? Luo Lan laughed happily. Guess. Zhou Qi curled his lips, mystifying. Luo Lan suddenly sighed. If only we could have pulled Ren Xiaosu to our side before. With him guarding the 111th barrier, my brother wouldn't have to stay in the barracks every day. Who are you looking down on? Zhou Qi was unhappy. Didn't I stay by his side before? What, you don't believe I can protect him? How am I not as good as Ren Xiaosu? Do you dare to break the 146th barrier alone? Luo Lan asked curiously. Zhou Qi paused. Just ignore me. But who will protect Qing Zhen when I go to the Central Plains? A guy named Zheng Yuandong has returned, Luo Lan said with a smile. He is more powerful than I thought. Zheng Yuandong? Sounds familiar. You should be more familiar with his codename, Yonggai. He is now a transcendent. The speed of the convoy heading to the Central Plains was not slow. This time, Luo Lan and Zhou Qi's mission to the Central Plains seemed to have suddenly become important. They had to use gold to gain cheap friendship in the chaos of the Central Plains, and then try to delay the time as long as possible, so that the day they were most worried about would come later. This will buy Qing Zhen more time to integrate the resources of the entire Southwest. Of course, it would be even better if the danger can be nipped in the bud. By the way, what about the Qing group? Zhou Qi asked. Don't we need to worry about that? No. Chapter 496 The person I like is never a flower in a greenhouse. King Group is located in the heart of the Central Plains, but unlike other consortiums that control several or even dozens of barriers, King Group has always controlled only one area. According to the number of the Barrier Alliance, it should be barrier number 66. But over the years, the people of King Group did not call it barrier number 66, but Luochen. As time went by, other people also began to call the barrier Luochen. It was as special as Fortress 178. When the Barrier Alliance was first established, King Group showed its strong side. They had a fixed organization, a stable organizational structure, and many technologies preserved from before the disaster. Of course, they did not retain all of them. At first, other consortiums were wary of King Group, but over time, everyone found that King Group did not seem to be very interested in expanding its territory. Moreover, in all the resource competitions in the Central Plains, King Group was not seen. They were just stubbornly looking for something. But what is even more strange is that the person who is in charge of King Group now is surnamed Su. The old Su family is a single-line family. It is said that the ancestors sold sanitary napkins. Later, a technical genius named Su Nuo emerged and became successful with the help of the big boss of King. However, the big boss of King seems to have no descendants, so the Su family took over the King Group on his behalf, but they always insisted that they were just a small shareholder, and when the heir of the big shareholder was found, they would abdicate and let the wise man take over. This matter used to be a joke. In this wasteland, who would abdicate and let the wise man take over? Today, King Group has become a very special existence in the Central Plains. It is located between the Wang, Chen, and Kong consortiums. The Wang family occupies the northwest position of the Central Plains and is connected to the northwest. The Kong family is located in the northeast, connected to the sea and Kanto. The Zhou family is located at the intersection of three rivers and radiates to the south. There are more than 10 remaining consortiums, but the strength of these three is indeed the strongest. But the reason why King Group is special is not because of its special geographical location, but because of its way of dealing with the world. Los Angeles has the largest higher education institution in the entire Barrier Alliance, and it is the closest to the teaching model before the disaster. When other consortiums set up universities, they all served their own technology, all had very utilitarian main directions, and all disciplines were studied for the purpose of improving the strength of the consortium one day. The children of other consortiums could not enter their universities to study. The difference of King University is that anyone can take the exam, and the teaching is also varied, and even art categories are opened on this wasteland. When this course was opened, many consortiums were joking that there is no soil for art to survive nowadays. Moreover, when other consortiums acquired the heritage of civilization before the disaster, they focused on laboratory materials and some scientific and technological achievements, while King Group collected everything and even sent people to find them. They seemed to be particularly interested in calligraphy and antiques, saying that they were the treasures of mankind. Such a consortium is like an alien on the wasteland. There is no other consortium in the world like them. At this time, classes at King University had just ended. On the green campus, students were happily walking out of the classroom with their backpacks on their backs. Some were rushing to the teaching building for the next class, while others had no more classes to attend and simply went to participate in club activities. A girl wearing a peaked cap was walking out of the school with her backpack on her back, standing tall and straight. At this moment, someone called her from behind, "Yang Xiaojun." Yang Xiaojun looked back calmly. "Is there something wrong?" There were a lot of people on the other side. The person who spoke was a very tall college student. He was wearing a white shirt and had a very sunny smile. He smiled at Yang Xiaojun and said, "We have a social gathering in the evening and invite you to join us. You have been alone during the school period. Are you not adapting to the pace of life in Los Angeles?" Yang Xiaojun shook her head. "I am just here to learn knowledge and I am not interested in social gatherings." Some people behind the boy were whispering, and someone seemed to be whispering to encourage the boy, "Don't be pretentious, just say it." The boy seemed to hesitate for a long time and suddenly said, "Yang Xiaojun, I like you, can you give me a chance?" "I can." However, this was interrupted by Yang Xiaojun, "I have someone I like." The boy froze for a moment, not knowing what to say, and he began to want to back out. Yang Xiaojun shook her head and said, "Look, your feelings are not that deep. If I reject you today, you will fall in love with someone else tomorrow. Your so-called love is just a speculative temptation. Once blocked, you will retreat immediately. Someone next to him suddenly whispered, "That's a bit too much?" The boy struggled. "Who do you like, the student union president? Or?" Yang Xiaojun shook her head again. "He is not in Los Angeles. You think the student union president is excellent because you haven't had the opportunity to see the outside world. The person I like has never been a flower in a greenhouse." However, Yang Xiaojun is not sure whether he is still alive. The red javelin pierced the other person's body right in front of her. The mob organization promised to avenge her, but the condition is that she must do 10 things for the mob. In the past 2 months, she has been asking her aunt if there is any news about the other party, but she has received a negative answer every time. The aunt arranged for her to continue her studies at King University and learn the details of King Group, but Yang Xiaojun was never an ordinary student. She had killed people, and she had accompanied someone to build a hope in the wilderness until that hope was shattered. But it doesn't matter, she believes that the other party will survive, and she will find the other party sooner or later. Yang Xiaojun turned and left. She walked along Cadwan Avenue all the way back to her little nest in Los Angeles, and then kept disassembling her sniper rifle and wiping it at home. After repeating it several times, she personally pressed gunpowder for various bullets. If the students in the school saw this scene, they would probably be stunned. This is not a toy that a little girl should have. Until then, Yang Xiaojun's mood slowly calmed down. In fact, under the calm appearance, there is a warm heart hidden. She went to the kitchen to make a meal for herself, and then crushed the remaining chopped green onions and squeezed out the juice. Yang Xiaojun took out a thin brush, took out a paper crane from her pocket, unwrapped it, dipped the brush in onion juice, wrote a few lines of small words on white paper, and then folded the paper crane again. The paper crane spread its wings, as if it suddenly came alive, and flew away to the west. After receiving the paper crane, the other party only needs to bake it slightly over the fire, and the handwriting inside will immediately appear. Chapter 497 Night Organization. There are many ways to write secret letters. For example, aminopyrine tablets can be mixed with water, and the handwriting can be revealed after special treatment. For example, starch can be mixed with water and rice water, and then iodine can be lightly wiped to reveal the handwriting. Yang Xiaojun chose to use onion juice, but it was because the onion juice method was simpler, and if someone wiped it with iodine at the first time, the handwriting would not be clear when it was roasted. After the onion juice is mixed with paper, the ignition point is much lower than that of paper, so after a little baking, the font will become burnt yellow. Yang Xiaojun watched the 1,000 paper cranes fly away slowly, and the expectations in her heart seemed to fly away with 1,000 paper cranes. She hoped that the next time it flew back, it would bring her good news. At this time, Ren Xiaosu was walking in the wilderness with Zhou Yingsu. Because the Wang group was recently arresting suspicious people, the two people thought the car was too big a target, so they abandoned it. Originally, they could have gotten 2 motorcycles, but in the end, neither of them knew how to ride. Ren Xiaosu's shelter mission had been completed, but what disappointed him was that the reward for this mission was only a basic level skill map, not a perfect level 1, which means that he still didn't have a map that could replicate other people's extraordinary abilities. But it wasn't a big problem. The mission would always come again, and the perfect level skill map would appear again. The black market that Zhou Yingsu mentioned was at the intersection of the Wang, Kong, and Zhou consortiums, in a mountain valley not too far from a city called Luocheng. That Luocheng happened to be under the control of the King Group. In fact, the King Group only had this barrier. The person in charge of the black market chose the location near Luocheng, on the one hand because it was convenient for people from the 3 consortiums and the black world to come and buy things, and it was close to everything. On the other hand, the King Group never cared much about such things, as long as they didn't make too much trouble in the black market. Ren Xiaosu asked curiously, "Then can anyone enter this black market?" "Of course," Zhou Yingsu said. "This black market is huge, occupying an entire pre-disaster county, and it's very lively. Many fugitives wanted by various consortiums eventually hid here, and rich people can also come to ask them to come out and do some dirty things." Ren Xiaosu nodded and said, "Okay, after you go in, you can pretend to be my follower." Zhou Yingsu was a little unwilling. "Why should I become a follower? I am a superhuman after all." Ren Xiaosu turned around and looked at her calmly. Zhou Yingsu's voice became weaker and weaker. "A follower is a follower. No, many people in this black market have seen me. When we were working together to complete the A-level task before, we even reported our abilities. If someone recognizes me at that time, I, a superhuman, will be your follower. How powerful must your identity be? Ren Xiaosu thought about it and it seemed to be the case. He glanced at Zhou Yingsu and said, then you can tell the outside world that I am your assistant. Zhou Yingsu is happy now, then you have to act like an assistant and stop ordering me around. Okay, Ren Xiaosu waved his hand impatiently, don't worry. When the two were about to arrive at the outskirts of the black market, people from the black market organization came to inquire about them. They did not ask about their identities, but only what they were doing there, and even asked if they needed help booking a hotel. Zhou Yingsu said with a haughty look, book a hotel, 2 rooms. Do you need to rent a car, or make an appointment for a massage in advance? Not for now. Okay. After that, the people from the black market organization left politely, and before leaving they even wished them a good time here. Ren Xiaosu smacked his lips, the service attitude of this black market is quite good. Zhou Yingsu said, I don't know who is controlling this black market. The other party not only regards this place as a place to sell stolen goods, but also creates a real den of money. If you spend enough money here, they will even send you an invitation letter every spring to organize a vacation at the seaside. There is also a large casino here, and the dealers in the casino are dressed. Ren Xiaosu asked, is it more exaggerated than what you wore in the library? Zhou Yingsu's face turned black at the time, do you have to mention this? Since leaving Yang's, Zhou Yingsu seems to have become a different person. She used to work for a job, but now she lives more for herself. When a superhuman leaves a consortium, it's like a bird leaving a cage. Of course, Zhou Yingsu still wants to dress herself up to be more charming, but she doesn't have to deliberately show it to men. As soon as she entered the black market, someone recognized Zhou Yingsu and came forward to greet her cordially. Some things were different from what Ren Xiaosu expected. He thought that the mission of the number 61 barrier had failed, but many people in the black market said that Zhou Yingsu and her team had completed the mission beautifully and defeated all the members of the Spark Company in the number 61 barrier. However, Ren Xiaosu found that Zhou Yingsu also had a puzzled look in her eyes, so he decided to ask about it when he had the chance. After seeing Ren Xiaosu, someone asked curiously, who is this? Zhou Yingsu waved her hand coldly, he is my assistant, don't worry about him. Ren Xiaosu. In an instant, Ren Xiaosu was thrown aside by a group of snobs in front of him, while Zhou Yingsu was surrounded by them like a star, asking about the details of the battle at that time. Many of these people make a living by selling intelligence. If they can say a few good words to Zhou Yingsu, they can get important information in return. Why not do it? But Ren Xiaosu found that Zhou Yingsu was not stupid. She was very careful in her words and did not reveal any useful information. At this moment, he suddenly saw someone leading a team outside the black market. The person at the front of the team was very strange. He had a red cloth covering his face. Some people following behind him looked very young, and they might even be students who were still in school. The people who originally surrounded Zhou Yingsu in the black market left after finding that they could not find out any useful information. Instead, they surrounded the young man with a red cloth covering his face. Ren Xiaosu whispered, who is this person? A member of the night organization, Zhou Yingsu whispered, this place is very close to King Group, so you can often see them. Who are those people behind him? They look very young, Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion. I heard that he is a student of King University. King University has a rule that students must go out to travel and see the world, but they can only go out under the protection of knights. Thank you for becoming the new ally of this book from the Eastern Tang Dynasty. The boss is generous. Chapter 498 Social Experience Class. The night organization member with a red cloth on his face passing by with a group of students behind him was just a small episode. Whenever the other party passed by a special building, the knight would point it out to other members and tell them what this place was for. He would even tell the students behind him what the people here did. This team's trip actually looked more like an autumn outing, or a social experience class, allowing those university students to come out and see what the outside world was like. Ren Xiaosu believed that before these people went to the black market, the knight must have taken these students in the fortress to see the living conditions of the refugees. After the group of students passed by, Zhou Yingsu said, it's late today. Let's go to the hotel. We have booked a hotel before. Have a good rest, and then I will show you here tomorrow. There is nothing to visit in the black market at night. No one sells things. The rich will go to the gold-spending cave to squander, and the poor will wait outside, ready to run errands for the uncles inside. Ren Xiaosu nodded. Let's go. But on the way to the hotel, they suddenly found that the road the knight took the students was surprisingly in the same direction as them. As they walked along, Ren Xiaosu looked at the brightly lit hotel in front of him and asked curiously, "Are we staying in that hotel?" "Yes," Zhou Yingsu nodded. "It seems that the people from the King Group also live in it." The hotel looked quite elegant. There was parking space outside, and waiters in white uniforms greeted guests. The white stones at the entrance of the hotel looked clean. Ren Xiaosu found it hard to believe that in such a remote place, there was such a place hidden. It was even more luxurious than the one in the fortress. Zhou Yingsu whispered, "Other black markets still have to worry about being encircled and attacked by the consortium and the extremely high commissions, but this place is safe and stable, and has gradually become the first choice for the bigwigs. In recent years, many bigwigs have lived here directly and regarded it as their headquarters." The two walked into the lobby. The waiter first brought a warm white towel and smiled and indicated that they could use it for free. Ren Xiaosu saw the students from King Group checking in, and the night member calmly explained, "It's a good thing to bring you here to see the world, but don't turn a good thing into a bad thing. If I find out that someone has secretly gone to a brothel or a casino, I will expel you from school when I go back." While speaking, the night member looked up and saw Ren Xiaosu looking at him, so he nodded and smiled politely, but that smile was polite and kept people away. Zhou Yingsu whispered, "Knights are all very arrogant, and they are never very sociable." "I can see that," Ren Xiaosu nodded. After the knights left with their people, the pretty girl at the front desk said to Zhou Yingsu with an apologetic look on her face, "Hello, Ms. Zhou, the 2 rooms you booked before are sold out. There is only one left, room 1005. Zhou Yingsu was stunned for a moment. "This is the first time I've encountered such a thing. Didn't I make a reservation? How could there be a problem?" The pretty receptionist said guiltily, "I'm really sorry. The main reason is that more than 20 customers suddenly came to King Group. They didn't make an appointment, so you should also understand that King Group is the highest priority customer here." Zhou Yingsu wanted to argue something, but suddenly someone walked into the lobby, saw Zhou Yingsu and laughed. "Isn't this Zhou Yingsu? I heard that the last mission went very smoothly. It's just that you seem to be the only A-level killer who came back. You are indeed a powerful, extraordinary person." Ren Xiaosu looked at the person who was speaking. The other person's hair was combed back, and he was wearing a tight suit and a pair of leather shoes on his feet, but no socks. He asked curiously, "Who is this? He can't even afford socks." The man opposite laughed angrily, "What a lame joke you are talking about." But Zhou Yingsu frowned and said, "Assistant, stop him from getting in my way. But don't fight. Fighting is not allowed in this hotel. I'm going upstairs to rest." Ren Xiaosu looked at Zhou Yingsu in astonishment. She picked up the room card and turned to walk towards the elevator. Ren Xiaosu silently blocked the elevator. The man tried to push Ren Xiaosu and grabbed Zhou Yingsu's arm several times, but Ren Xiaosu always stood in front of him like a competent bodyguard. After Zhou Yingsu went upstairs, the man left angrily. "You've just completed an A-level mission and you're already keeping a gigolo." Ren Xiaosu raised his eyebrows and went upstairs. If Zhou Yingsu hadn't specifically said that fighting was not allowed in this hotel, the guy in front of him would have died on the spot. After knocking on the door and entering the house, Ren Xiaosu swaggered to sit on the sofa in the room. Zhou Yingsu squatted over weakly and began to massage Ren Xiaosu's legs. "I just wanted to pretend to be more realistic. I didn't really want to command you, and I really annoyed him." Ren Xiaosu hummed. "What does he do?" Zhou Yingsu explained while massaging Ren Xiaosu's legs. "He is also an A-level killer. His name is Zhao Haochen. I'm not sure if he has extraordinary abilities. He was originally in the cooperative team for the previous barrier mission number 61. As a result, after I showed up, someone took the initiative to invite me and kicked him out of the team. I heard that he has a history of doing dirty things to his teammates." "Oh, so you replaced his position before. No wonder you are so weird," Ren Xiaosu nodded. He didn't mind helping Zhou Yingsu a little, and he also understood that Zhou Yingsu deliberately told him that this was the collaborative rendezvous point to complete the mission, and showed weakness to him. In fact, It was because Zhou Yingsu knew that her extraordinary abilities were too weak and she couldn't complete the A-level mission independently. Therefore, Zhou Yingsu's fundamental purpose in bringing him here was to get Ren Xiaosu to team up with her to complete the mission. To put it bluntly, she was asking for help from her boss to complete the mission. "Stop eating me, you are also a transcendent after all," Ren Xiaosu said unhappily. Zhou Yingsu was about to curse in her heart. "What's wrong with being a transcendent? You have knocked me out several times. The dignity of a transcendent is almost gone. Isn't she almost becoming a maidservant beside you?" Ren Xiaosu suddenly asked. "What else do you know about the King Group? Why is this hotel so polite to the King Group? Are their military strength strong?" The military strength of the King Group has always been a mystery. Many people say that the founder of King was already a transcendent before the disaster, but it has never been confirmed. Zhou Yingsu sat down cautiously and said, "But what is known is that there are 12 satellites still controlled by the entire Barrier Alliance, 7 of which are in the hands of the King Group, and the electricity in this black market is actually supplied by the King Group. So, King is the big boss behind this black market." Ahem, make up for yesterday's chapter. Chapter 499 New Mission. Since coming to the Central Plains, Ren Xiaosu felt as if he had entered a new world. There were not only the Qing family and the 178 fortress, but also many strange organizations, such as Fire, Anjing Temple, King Group, etc. This was a wider world. No wonder Yang Xiaojun once said that he would come here after the matter in the southwest was over. Thinking about it, the other party was willing to stay with him in the valley area where no one lived, which was also an attitude. At this time, Ren Xiaosu felt that the largest and most professional black market in the Central Plains was probably run by the King Group behind the scenes. What he could think of, others could definitely think of. But the reason why everyone left this black market alone might be related to the King Group's attitude of not competing with the world. Since such an organization did not intend to compete for the Central Plains, some insignificant things could naturally be compromised a little. "Let's go and see the night of this black market." Ren Xiaosu stood up and went out. Zhou Yingsu followed behind him, but she pouted silently. She just wanted to see the colorful world. She must have been tempted by what she said about the dealers and brothels. All men are bad. But Zhou Yingsu still followed him obediently. After going out, the two of them became male-level killers and assistants again. Zhou Yingsu's expression was as arrogant as she could be. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt that Zhou Yingsu was a little addicted to role-playing. When passing by the legendary brothel, a group of beautiful women in uniform stood at the door and smiled at passers-by. Ren Xiaosu asked curiously, "What kind of uniform is this? I have never seen any soldiers wearing this. It is said that it is the stewardess uniform before the disaster, that is, the crew on the plane," Zhou Yingsu explained. Ren Xiaosu. This black market really opened his eyes. No wonder those big bosses are willing to live here. According to Zhou Yingsu, this black market has also built a villa area specifically for those big bosses at sky-high prices. Moreover, in the surrounding mountains, there have always been people from the black market organization who regularly clear out wild animals. There is not even a snake in the entire mountain range. However, Zhou Yingsu asked curiously, "Aren't you going to the brothel to take a look? Isn't it just to see this that you ran out in the middle of the night?" "Just take a look at the door," Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. "Why do you want to go in?" Zhou Yingsu was almost shocked at the time. "Is it really just to take a look?" Exclamation mark. Just when they walked to the door of the casino, Ren Xiaosu was suddenly stunned. He and Zhou Yingsu saw that the night member with a red scarf on his face was carrying a student out of it. The student weighed more than 100 pounds, but he was holding it in his hand as light as a feather. The knights threw the student to the ground mercilessly. "You violated the ban on going out without permission, and you can walk back to Luochang by yourself. You are expelled from the school." The students got up in a panic. "You are just here to protect us. What right do you have to make such a decision?" The knights said coldly, "When you walk back to Luocheng, you will know why I made such a decision." Ren Xiaosu muttered in a low voice, "It seems that this night organization has great power in King Group." Of course, Zhou Yingsu nodded. These are all believers who believe in the founder of King. Suke, the current helmsman of King, also respects them. It is said that only by passing 8 tests can they become true believers. Then how dare these students contradict him? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. "Because these knights don't have any real jobs in King Group," Zhou Yingsu didn't know much about the internal structure of King Group. I think it's because they are young and ignorant. Their families must have told them, but curiosity drove them to walk into the casino. After being caught, they could only get angry and embarrassed. Ren Xiaosu shook his head. You see, he doesn't dare to look at the night now, which means he is actually very clear about the other party's position in King Group. It's just that his living conditions are too good and he has nothing to do. Zhou Yingsu looked at Ren Xiaosu strangely. Aren't you the same age as that student? Do you know about the founder of King? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. A lot of information was lost after the disaster, and only a few people in King Group know it. It seems that there are some secrets hidden in the life experience of this founder. Everyone speculates that maybe knowing his life experience will know why he could become a supernatural person before the disaster. Zhou Yingsu thought for a while and said, to be honest, everyone is actually very curious about this secret. What is the name of this founder? Ren Xiaosu asked. It's Ren He, Zhou Yingsu said firmly. This is not a secret. Let's go back to the hotel. Ren Xiaosu turned and left. Zhou Yingsu followed eagerly. So what are we going to do next? Wait. After returning to the hotel at night, Zhou Yingsu quietly put a pillow on the sofa. After only one room was left, she had to sleep on the sofa. Ren Xiaosu was lying on the bed with a swagger, not showing any intention of being a gentleman. Zhou Yingsu covered herself with a thin quilt with grievance. However, Zhou Yingsu slept very peacefully, as if she was no longer worried about what Ren Xiaosu would do to her. She slept until dawn, and suddenly woke up, and then saw Ren Xiaosu moving a chair next to her and sitting next to her calmly. Zhou Yingsu woke up all of a sudden, quickly wrapped in the quilt and asked carefully, "What are you doing?" Ren Xiaosu asked slowly, "Dream." Zhou Yingsu was stunned. "How do you know?" "No, I'm not dreaming." "Then what do you mean by talking in your sleep?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "What did I say?" Ren Xiaosu said expressionlessly. "You said it, I'll beat you to death, Ren Xiaosu." Zhou Yingsu was frightened and cried on the spot. It's just a dream talk, who would take it seriously? Ren Xiaosu didn't bother with her, but stood up and said, "Get up and wash up, there's something to do." Zhou Yingsu quickly got out of the bed on the sofa. "What's the matter?" "A mission has come." A text message appeared on both of their phones at the same time. A-level mission, target Joseon, located in the number 73 barrier, advocates the development of nuclear weapons, and has occupied the wife of his subordinates. It is suspected that there is a supernatural person protecting him. The reward is 1 million, and he accepts cooperation with no more than 5 people, and each of them can get the right to use the safe house once, and can get our protection when they are chased. Ren Xiaosu put the phone in his pocket. He basically carried this phone with him, otherwise he would not receive text messages if he put it in the palace. But he suddenly felt that Anjing Temple and the thugs seemed to have a common goal and were both hostile to nuclear weapons. Could there be any connection between Anjing Temple and the thugs? But he had never heard Zhang Xiaojun mention it. Chapter 500 Ren Xiaosu's way of solving the problem. The A-level assassins. There are also very few extraordinary people. Using A-level assassins to deal with such bigwigs of the consortium should be just right. It is a bit difficult to deal with the Spark Company. However, Ren Xiaosu is still more looking forward to the task of dealing with the Spark Company, which is more challenging. At this moment, the phone in the room rang. Zhou Yingsu went to answer the phone, but heard a pleasant voice saying, "The guest in room 1209 has entrusted the hotel to initiate a collaboration invitation. If you are interested, you can go directly to room 1209. "Okay, got it." Zhou Yingsu hung up the phone and looked at Ren Xiaosu. "Are you going? This hotel is too magical. It can actually entrust tasks directly? How far is Barrier 73 from us?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "It shouldn't be close. I have never received a task there before. Is this task released in different regions?" "It's very far, about 600 kilometers. In fact, I don't really want to take this task," Zhou Yingsu said, "because I have never been to Barrier 73, and I am unfamiliar with the place. However, the tasks of Anjing Temple are indeed released by region. It seems that if you are in Wang's, you can only receive tasks from Wang's, but this black market is special. As long as you are in this black market, you can receive tasks from 3 parties." Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that this was the case. No wonder Zhou Yingsu said that so many killers would come to live in the black market after completing their missions. Not only was there a den of money to spend and enjoy, but also because there were more missions to receive here. It must be said that the location of this black market was indeed unique. He said to Zhou Yingsu seriously, then let's go to the 73rd rampart quickly, so that the mission won't be snatched by others. I don't think it's necessary to do this mission with others. The two of us are enough. Zhou Yingsu seemed to have heard something very interesting. Do you need to snatch the mission for D level? Ren Xiaosu was puzzled. Don't you need to snatch the mission for A level? Of course you don't need to snatch it. Zhou Yingsu said, as long as someone completes the collaborative team first and submits the mission application to Anjing Temple, then the mission will not be given to others. In addition, Anjing Temple will assess whether your team is qualified to accept the mission. If not, it will not be approved. So if we go now, we can only apply for the mission with my A level, and I will definitely not be able to apply for it. Ren Xiaosu understood. So when you reach A level, you still have to team up with others. Generally speaking, Anjing Temple allows several people to cooperate, so it is easier for a team of several people to apply for a mission. Although it seems that there is an extra condition, the killers have nothing to complain about. Everyone believes in the intelligence capabilities of Anjing Temple. Allowing everyone to freely form a team is also for their safety. Do you think we should take this mission? Ren Xiaosu asked. Zhou Yingsu thought for a moment and said, I think it might be dangerous if we are unfamiliar with the place, so it's better not to take it. Then let's go and see how our teammates are this time. Ren Xiaosu said. Zhou Yingsu, did you listen carefully to what I said? The two discussed for 10 minutes, and Ren Xiaosu decided to take the mission. Zhou Yingsu followed him and rolled her eyes at his back for a long time. If you want to take the mission, just say it directly. Why do you still need to ask for opinions? However, Zhou Yingsu dared not speak out now. The maid had no room to complain. The two took the elevator to the 12th floor and found room 1209. Surprisingly, when they arrived, the door of the room was already open, and there were already 5 people sitting inside, including Zhao Haocheng, who was stopped outside the elevator by Ren Xiaosu last night. Anjing Temple allows cooperation within 5 people, so even if there are more people, the total reward is only so much, so there are already 5 people in the room, which means they are likely to be late. Ren Xiaosu thought, don't the A-level players have to fight for missions too? Zhao Haocheng smiled happily when he saw Zhou Yingsu and Ren Xiaosu. Unfortunately, there is no place for you this time. Another person, the owner of room 1209, apologized to Zhou Yingsu. Sorry, we have enough people. Zhou Yingsu said coldly, this Zhao Haocheng has a history of blackening his teammates. Are you willing to do missions with such a person? Zhao Haocheng's face suddenly darkened. Zhou Yingsu, I tell you not to slander others casually. This time you went to barrier number 61, why did you only return to the black market after completing the mission? I'm afraid you can't explain this. At least I won't attack my own people behind their backs, Zhou Yingsu said coldly. The owner of room 1209 was still apologetic and polite as before. We don't have many A-level people, and the circle is not big, so as the initiator of the mission, I don't want to offend you too, so I can only say first come first served. Zhou Yingsu turned and left, and Ren Xiaosu followed behind her, honestly playing the role of assistant. After Zhou Yingsu went out, she was about to go back to her room, but Ren Xiaosu pressed the first floor of the elevator and walked out of the black market. Zhou Yingsu asked curiously, what are you going to do? Let's go back to the room and wait for the task. There's no need to leave the black market in anger, right? We are leaving the black market, but it has nothing to do with being angry or not. Ren Xiaosu looked at Zhou Yingsu strangely, as if to say, you are so weird, what are you thinking? Zhou Yingsu followed behind Ren Xiaosu with a wronged look on her face. She complained, I don't know what those people are thinking. Zhao Haocheng attacked his teammates before, but he didn't expect them to survive. It's just that this matter is only known to a small group of people. The teammate also died of his injuries. Now there is no evidence, so he has become rampant again. They walked all the way to the halfway point of a hill, and then watched Ren Xiaosu suddenly take out a sniper rifle, set it on the ground without paying attention to others, and then he lay on the ground with his eyes close to the scope. Aren't they all here? I'll wait for Zhao Haocheng to come out of the hotel and then kill him, so that I'll have a position. Zhou Yingsu was shocked on the spot. Is this how you think? If other people's teams are full, you beat them up so that they are short of people, so that you can do missions with them? What kind of brain circuit is this? Exclamation mark. Is this something that people do? She didn't know that Ren Xiaosu had snatched the cell phones of more than 20 D-level killers in order to compete for the mission with a group of D-level killers. Ren Xiaosu's way of solving problems has always been so straightforward. Ren Xiaosu glanced at her and said, "Didn't you say that Zhao Haocheng was behind the scenes attacking his teammates? I am doing this to eliminate harm for the people." Zhou Yingsu stopped talking. Although she felt that the method of directly killing Zhao Haocheng was a bit rough, she felt a little happy when she saw Ren Xiaosu venting her anger. "Thank you for helping me vent my anger," Zhou Yingsu whispered. Ren Xiaosu said strangely, "Who cares if you are angry or not? I just want to complete the mission." Zhou Yingsu suddenly became even angrier. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.